Hey, we are live. It's Sunday, December 3rd. So I'm just going to be here hanging out as people show up. But if you're watching on YouTube, timestamps will be below in the description for whatever readings, for the full channel mode, for anything else that happened in this live that, I typically would put in the description. So I will see you there for your reading, or otherwise, I'm just going to hang out for a second with the people showing up. And make water drinking noises. So hope everybody's had a good week. Hey Kara, how are you doing? Excuse me. Doing amazing. Heck yeah, so glad to hear it. How's it get even better than that? I'm doing well. Feeling maybe actually I feel okay, or better than okay, I think, but feeling a little tired, but that's okay. I got enough sleep for this, physical sleep, so we're good to go with that. Hey Jillian, yeah, so it's I might start doing the lives later every Sunday. We'll see about that, but right now it was just some things came out today where it was better to do it live for me. So I'm at least going to do that for today. And we might start a new live time at like 6 p.m. Central Time every Sunday. That might work better for me, honestly. And if it works well for you guys too, then I don't see a reason why we should not do that. Hey, Stacy, good to see you. Excuse me. I hope you're doing well. Hey, little Mandy Dandy, good to see you. I'm glad you're able to join too. Hey, Becca, happy to see you too. Yeah, I hope that the later time works for people well. Hey, abundance, love, joy, that means the world, that means a lot, so I really appreciate that. And it's good to see you, by the way, too. I hope you're doing well. I hope your intuition is growing and thriving, and you are thriving. Hey, Marina, good to see you too. Always good to see you, people. Oh, thank you, Julie. I appreciate the compliment, and I appreciate that. Awesome. Perfect. Abundance, love, joy. Hey, Lexi. Hey, Lucky. Thank you. Ooh, all right. How does it get any better than this? So we're probably going to do our normal thing today. We're going to do the collective reading in a bit here. They would like me to hang out with you for a bit before we start that out. Then we'll do the signs and the full channel mode session. We might get to some Reiki infused guitar as well, but I don't want to promise that until we get closer to that, depending on, how I'm doing. Fighting the Sunday scaries. I hear ya. Sometimes I hear you giving me advice, especially if I'm not careful with my words. Oh, that'll do it. It's interesting because the words I feel called to say, or like I'm honored to hear that, like abundance, love, joy. That what's the best? I don't see. I'm about to be careful with my words too, because like the words I'm hearing are like that I seep into people's intuition. I don't think that's the right way to say it, but it's always so funny to hear to me that people will hear me as part of their channeled messages. It does make sense. I like have that too with other people at times, or I don't know why they're having me talk about this, but like if I'm like scrolling through YouTube and there's a reader that I, either used to watch or would typically watch. I haven't really been watching as many readings lately. They've my spirit guides have told me to stop. But if like the reading is not for me, I might see the reader on like the cover photo be like, no, not this one, or something like that. Or they're like, no, watch the video beneath this one, so it's in their voice and stuff. But so it's funny that I hear about people having that with me too. Yeah, it's interesting because the words I hear when I read you too, Jessica, are like it's an honor. Like for me, it's an honor. So, um, it's an honor. How does it get even better than that? Thank you for thanking me, Julie Sunrise. I'm really doing my best to, in a way that's for the highest good and balanced, and put as much value into these as I can. And by for the highest good, I mean in like a way that's both for my highest good and your highest good. So I'm not, burning myself out or anything like that. Thanks, Jessica Johnston. Hey, the lame chick. I know I talk about this, but I always feel slightly. I mean, I think to me it's more just slightly humorous, but when someone's username is something like a bit. Is the term self-effacing the correct term? It's like a little bit not derogatory, but insulting. And then like, I don't really have another name to go by. So just like, all right, lame chick. How's it going? It's like, I don't mean anything by it, of course, but it always cracks me up a little bit. Okay. So if you guys are ready to rock and roll, that or better, I'm getting to start the collective reading in just a second here. So were we supposed to hang out longer? Nope. All right. So collective reading is, of course, whether you're here live or you're watching on YouTube after the fact when I repost this, it's just for you whenever you see it. It's just meant to be for whoever sees it whenever they see it, essentially. That's kind of what timeless means. Or that is one of my intentions with timeless, when something is timeless. So something like that or better. And yeah, so I guess we'll start. So I'm just going to channel my spirit guides, the angels, and source to bring through whatever messages would be for your and the highest good. Name is Nikki. Thank you. I'll try to use that when I see you. I'll do my best to remember. Okay, so, woo, all right. Back to the reading. So, again, I'm just going to channel my spirit guides, the angels, and source for you. Bring through whatever is for your highest good and the highest good to come through right now, and work with my intuition, whatever way would be for the highest good as well, to bring through what you need to hear and just bring through what would help you out right now. So let's see what comes through for you today. Woo, okay, first visual I'm getting is just things getting, and the energy is really intense too, is like this energy of things being blown wide open. It's interesting because it's not that I don't feel energies when I'm doing readings. Like I've been very energy sensitive, as you can probably imagine. I haven't in the past. I'll just talk about it. I'm actually feeling like it almost looks like a volcano when someone like hits the top and it cracks and things like get blown wide open, or like a rock being cracked open and there's a geode. I'm getting that visual as well. But I'm actually really feeling the energy of that as well as I'm channeling through the message, which seems new to me, if I'm being honest. So that's cool. And I'll do my best to just balance that and make sure I'm just bringing through what's for the highest good, but I'm getting distracted probably. So let me see what is the message for you regarding things getting blown open. So for at least some of you, it's you getting blown open. I feel like all of you are to some degree. For some of you, it's intuitively, it's like your third eye is just like, it's like awake. And in like cartoons, they'd usually depict characters with like, they'd put like toothpicks in their eyelids to keep their eyes open or something like that. I'm almost seeing like that with like your third eye. It's almost like you're being, well, I want to be careful when I say this, but it's like you're being forced awake. It's like you all are, and it's not like you weren't awake before, and it's definitely not me trying to insult you where you're just like, I was already awake. It's like, I'm not saying you weren't. There might be, and you can trust your own intuition on this as well, further to go, and that's being forced to happen, or you're being like forced through awakenings and even just like intuition, whatever level you need it at, intuition awakenings as well, to really hit the next level. And the world really needs to be more intuitive, which is at least part of why this is happening, essentially. And you might even be forerunners of intuition, at least some of you who are watching this, where it's going to be your job to be intuitive in the world and operate in the right amount, the amount of right that's right for you, and that's for your highest good, like in intuition more, maybe even all the way, depending on where you're at with all that. If you have the right balance with that, excuse me, and like be a herald of that in the world, like in your personal reality and the people around you. If you grow a following or are growing a following, you could be a herald of intuition there as well, which is actually really cool. And if you're not there yet, you might just grow into it. And that might be part of what this period is about, as well as you growing into this. For others of you, it's opportunities. I want to stay with it for another second longer to make sure I'm getting the right information for you. But opportunities being blown open, it's your comfort zone being blown open in a way that's for your highest good. It's not like devastating necessarily or bad. It's just like you're having to stretch and grow a little bit. And for others of you yet, and some of you might find all of this is true, but it's like your life is being blown open to accommodate new things, new targets, new dreams, new things you'd like to do, new things that are coming in for you, etc. Because we're all being asked to grow and expand our sphere, if you will, our experience, and grow as people through that. Again, doesn't have to be difficult, doesn't have to be terrible. It could just be like you got a new hobby and maybe that forces you through some growth, or it causes you to look at the world differently. And maybe that helps spark your intuition more as well. And there's just a lot of growth happening through being blown open to various capacities. So this might hit you a little bit differently depending on where you're at on your journey and depending on what you need. But there is, again, a big energy of things being blown wide open. Next thing they'd like me to get to, they're showing me a car. It's like a red convertible. There's also like baby blue. It almost looks a little old, like some type of, I don't know if Pontiac ever had a convertible, but it's like older. The headlights like flip up, like if you remember those kinds of cars. So let me see what the message is. We're getting these cars showing up here. So what I'm hearing are the words new rides. So again, for some of you, it's going to be a bit different perhaps than others. For some of you, literally, you might be getting a new car or something like that. Or you might have to sometime soon, and it's actually going to go well and in your favor, and it's actually what you need. So if that happens, don't freak out. It's going to work out for you. For others of you, it's like your vehicle. Well, let me stay with it for a second here. For others of you, it's like a business. It's like a vehicle of making money, or like an engine of making money, and you need to expand that, or it's growing for you, which is fantastic, or you'll get new ideas, and like that's your metaphorical new car for you. It's like an engine to move through the world or finance your living. For others of you, yeah, again, this is going to be your life, actually. It's going to be a bit bigger than just a physical vehicle. It's going to be like who you are and the vehicle you are. And this is going to sound a little bit weird maybe, but the vehicle your life is and is serving as metaphorically for what you're here to do in the world. There's a big expansion and changeover with all of that. And you might be afraid as you're hearing this, like maybe just two of you or some of you, but it's actually going to go well once again. This message is meant to be positive. It's meant to be a boon to you and the right direction. Is not meant to be like, oh, you're losing everything you loved and you have all these memories with this car, now it's gone. It's like the things that are meant to remain will remain. You're not losing everything. You're losing the things that don't belong, which doesn't necessarily, it might feel like a loss. It doesn't have to be a loss, is what I'm hearing regarding this message specifically. So new vehicles is kind of that message, as metaphorically or literally as that shows up for you. Next, we're going to this volcano here. There's stars. The Star Tarot card is showing up as well, like those stars from the Star Tarot card, like the traditional arts like around the volcano as well. And the message I'm hearing is blow-ups lead to hope. So you might have blow-ups in your life. Didn't mean to sing that because that doesn't sound fun, but I'm singing it. But I feel like they're actually going to lead to really good things. Like they're going to open up truth. For some of you, it's like emotion that's been bottled up that's exploding, or it's like an awareness you've been suppressing that you can't suppress anymore. And like the pressure builds up in the bottle and the cork comes off and you kind of have to see the truth. And there's no way to avoid it. For others of you, it could also be other people blowing up and like you kind of have to work through that and find a new ground with those people. In a lot of ways, this has to do with truth being revealed and you seeing what the proper direction is. And sometimes blow-ups are the best things that happen to us long term, because if things hadn't been shaken up, they'd all kind of be the same and things would stagnate, or you might kind of end up in the wrong place in some way, shape, or form. They're showing me these different stories, or I'm like, the way it shows up is just like a really quick flash of like a memory of a story. I don't know if it matters if I explain it, but if you remember stories that you might have heard, like I think I was listening to a podcast and one of the, like years ago, and one of the stories was about this Olympic participant, and they were supposed to participate in this like Olympic event, and they got injured. I think it was like before the Olympics or during like a trial run or something, or maybe it was during the event, and they had to be hospitalized. And most people would be like, oh, this is the worst thing. I was right there with my big moment, blah, 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 blah. And then they like met their future wife, as like the nurse in the hospital. And so it was like a happy accident. And maybe that was a bit more of a brutal happy accident than maybe people would typically desire. However, it's one of those things where it's like that can be God's plan or Spirit's detour for you that lead you to what you're actually supposed to have, and true abundance that might not be what you thought abundance would be, if that makes any sense. And who's to say you can't have both? Like maybe you have to go to the hospital this Olympics run, metaphorically, but you meet the love of your life, and then you just, however many years later, you go back to the Olympics and you do awesome and you have both, or something else. So there's nothing wrong with this happening. It's more just trusting the blowups. And again, the message is blowups lead to hope. This doesn't have to be a devastating thing. It's more just keeping your head high when a blowup happens and being like, okay, where is this leading me? How is this serving me? Where might this be leading me that's better than I ever imagined? It's also reminding me of an access consciousness question, or I can't remember if it's a tool or not, but it's like when things happen that's different than how you might expect, or you're kind of like, why is this showing up? They recommend, especially if you've been making asks and manifesting things or whatever you call it for you, they would say something like, okay, is this just something you asked for that's showing up in a way that's completely different than you expected? Like you just didn't expect it to show up this way or through this series of events. It doesn't have to be that way. It doesn't have to be chaotic and all the time. It's just something to consider, that it might be exactly what you asked for or better. It's just, this is how Spirit's bringing it to you. So blow-ups lead to hope. And I don't know if I like the word salvation, but I also heard the word salvation there for a second. So next thing that's coming through for you guys here, there's an interesting visual. It's like above this volcano, now there are these clouds, and maybe they're soot, maybe they're just normal clouds, but there's also like sparklers, like, well, in the US, it would be 4th of July. I have to remember that not all of you are from the US and not all of you celebrate the 4th of July. And maybe some of you disdain the 4th of July, but probably not. That's probably not. It doesn't matter. It's fine if you disdain the 4th of July. It's fine if you don't. Whatever. Anyways, let me see what the message is, though. The word I'm hearing is freedom. I'm hearing the phrase stillness leads to freedom. So right now, I'd be scheduling time or looking at time to find stillness away from distractions, away from electronics. You could be journaling during this time, like even if it's like an hour a week or 2 hours a week. So many different things I'm hearing to tell you right now. But you'd be amazed at what's going to come to you this week whenever you're watching this. it may be beyond if you take some extra time to slow down physically. You don't have to slow your life down, but slow down physically for some moments and just like sit and just ponder or write stuff down, maybe channel for yourself, but give yourself space away from things that are distracting. Sit in the shower for a while. I don't know. That's, yeah. They're telling me not to tell you something I was about to tell you, but whatever it is for you, that's going to bring a lot of answers. I know this might not, well, I mean, it is going to be pertinent in a way if you're watching this in the future, but one of the things that came through as channeled advice for the next upcoming week at the time of facilitating this live and filming this was literally that same advice, where it's like stillness is going to bring a lot of answers. So take time to get still and just like let those things rise or come to you or channel through, or however it works for you or however it's going to work for you. Really going to be big for shifting things for the future. And sometimes some of the best ideas are going to come just because you took a moment for yourself. I remember times in the past where I would take 10 minutes and I would just grab I think at the time it was an Olipop. I love Olipops. I haven't had one in a while, but it's like this low sugar, like soda replacement, and it has prebiotics and stuff, and pretty dang delicious, actually. They did a pretty good job with most of those, in my experience and opinion, in my taste buds. But one second. It was like just 10 minutes and I just sat there and I was just enjoying my Olipop, taking a break or whatever. And like, there were just like a lot of really cool business ideas and things that were just kind of flowing in and showing up. And it was very, very like vivid and visual kind of experience. And I remember at the end of it, like just feeling really good. And I'm just like, man, I should just take time to just sit there and drink Olipops more often or something. And it's not really about drinking the Olipops, of course. It's allowing space for ideas or whatever you need to realize to show up. So I definitely be doing that. Something else that they showed up and they were saying like, yeah, tell them about it, which was slightly unrelated. Actually, it's from a book called Energy Speaks, and that's by Lee Harris. And it took a lot of different things he's channeled through and put it in the book. And one of the chapters, and I found it so funny because I don't think I read that chapter for like years while I had that book, or I just didn't remember it if I did. And then I flipped it open one day, not very recently, but semi-recently. And one of the things they talked about in the book was like scheduling 3 hours a week for like 3 weeks. It was like a self-love challenge. And they recommended like that time be just time for yourself. And it's like a self-love time, essentially. They recommended like going on walks in nature or like doing something creative, like where you're creating. But however you block it out is fine. It could be 3 hours in one day. It could be 1 hour spread over 3 different days in the week. It could be 30 minutes for 6 days, 30 minutes each day for 6 days. And I remember a lot of positive shifts and changes coming about from that when I tried it. A lot of the things they talked about in that really showed up for me. So something like that even could be good. And, I if you feel called to that book, perfect. I mean, I would highly recommend it personally. I feel like it's a good read. There's really helpful stuff in there, but do what you feel called to do. All that to say, just time for yourself and stillness away from distractions. It's going to be really good. So been hitting that point for a second. So let's move to, unless they want me to talk about it more. So what else here? Also, they're recommend to you that you read the book if you feel called to that message and that self-love exercise. It's like the first chapter or two in the book if you do end up picking it up. So it could be really good for you. Okay, next thing, they actually would like to talk about abundance. So what's up with abundance here? So the interesting message I'm getting is that what abundance is for people is changing. You, the world, everybody. Because a lot of the facades around what has been sold as abundance, that's not abundance for all of us. And maybe it's abundance for, some people or a few people on earth, and that really fills them up. And that's okay. Like money, success, fame, fortune. And there's nothing wrong with those things either. I don't think we need to judge those things preemptively based on society's conditioning or our parents' conditioning or religious conditioning or political conditioning or anything like that. but it's like what people value is shifting and changing. And a lot of those veils that have been keeping us from what matters are lifting, are the words I'm hearing to say. So you might find that happening like now, like this month, over the next year or so, where you just really realize what's important to you and you go that direction and it really fills you up. And you know what? Maybe it does have a level of like fame or fortune or whatever for you. Maybe it doesn't, but if you're in abundance and you're taken care of and you're filled up, that other stuff that isn't truly abundance for you doesn't really have to, matter so much to you if you have what you need, desire, what is actually abundance to you. So a lot of the veils around abundance are lifting is something I'm hearing. It's going to be important that you honor your own sense of abundance. You honor what's abundant to you and not get swept up into anyone else's stories around abundance as you get clear on this, because that's going to be like your life path, or it's going to be a really good direction for you to go, or show you a really good direction for you to go, if that makes sense. So just keep that in mind right now regarding topics like abundance. As the veils lift, go your own direction with it. Next, they're showing me a cricket, and this cricket is, crickets can be associated with music because they chirp and all those things. For those of you who this is going to resonate with as a sign, they're showing me this as well. So I have a lot of nerd references stored in my brain, I'm going to be honest, like from growing up, maybe even in the current time period as well. And my spirit guides and the angels and source really use that as ammunition for channel messages and intuition. Like you may or may not be surprised at how many video game noises or scenes or characters they use in my intuition. In my daily life for things, like if I am like, oh, what happens if I make this choice? And they play like I don't know, like the Final Fantasy, like success song, like when you win a battle in Final Fantasy or something like that. You're like, oh, cool, that's a good direction then, Or if I'm trying to go a certain direction, they're like, no. I'm like, oh, why not? And then they show like, from the original Super Mario Bros, like Mario, like when he loses a Mario life, he like hits a Goomba or whatever. He's like, and he like falls down. I'm like, okay, guess we're not doing that. So, all right, let's get back to the message though. They were showing me a Pokemon called Cricketune as well. For anyone who resonates for that sign. So I feel like that's pretty niche though. So let me see what the message is though here. So for whatever reason, what I'm hearing is music is going to be really important for you. Okay, could be for healing, for energy clearing, could be something you like are getting into for some of you as well, or that's like a good hobby if you're feeling called to it, already. This could be like a confirmation for you. Or maybe you put it down for a while and it's time to pick it back up, and that's actually meant to be a part of you this lifetime, and maybe you were sold that it wasn't for various reasons or whatever reason. So there were messages about sound healing that came through for one of the readings in the past couple lives. So sound healing could be very important. Could even be something like channeled singing or something interesting like that. And I'm being led into this message where there are a lot of ways that channeling can show up. It's not relegated to just channeling messages like on a TikTok live, like right now, or anything like that. Like you could channel cooking, and either whether that's you, just your spirit guides are like, okay, add this much of this, and okay, this is done, turn the burner off, for that stovetop, or you're like led through it. Or I've heard this before from other people, like you just zone out and you're just kind of like, okay, this, I'm just going to handful of this, and you just kind of like cook something and it turns out really well. And it all just kind of comes together. It's like the universe moves through you to cook this delicious meal or something like that. But it can also show up, and you might already be familiar with this, but like with art, with music, with conversation you're having, through like physical action and sports, depending on who you are and where you're at with all that. There might not be all the athletes in the world or anything like that. And maybe that one will be a bit rarer, actually. It really depends. However, the reason this is coming up is some of you are judging yourselves because you're not acting like or channeling like, or your gifts might not be showing, not to limit your gifts at all, but they might not be showing up right now in like the ways it is for someone else, and you're beating up on yourself. But Spirit's like, hey, there's this other like way for you. There's this like other thing you're supposed to do. Like this is important too. You're not less worthy or less deserving necessarily because your intuition's showing up in a different way, or because we would like you to go this route with certain things. So, and I don't think it's like you losing your gifts, and it's definitely not to limit you. You might very well be channeling messages and meant to do that too. And definitely not to dissuade you from that if you feel called to that. But just don't judge yourself right now with how your gifts are showing up or where they're showing up. It's like, it's for a reason, and that could be your starting place. They're giving me the example of Lee Harris once again. If you've heard some of his, well, I've heard a lot of his, like how he got started with channeling kind of stories over the years as I've watched his content. And one thing he talks about is like, I think it was before he heard the voices of his spirit guides more just like directly like that, they would show him like music, like they'd show him entire songs like written out, and he'd like hear the song etherically and he'd be like, oh cool, and then he'd start writing the music. And that was like his opening to channeling and like preparing him to channel and things like that. And then it moved into him like getting messages and things like that. So don't neglect your gifts in areas they're showing up. You're not necessarily like lesser than someone else because it's not showing up in the same way. Whoever needs to hear that. But where else were we going with that? What else? What would be nice to bring through next here at least? Okay, we're changing gears. I hope that was the message you needed. So we're just going to change gears to, they're showing me our good, great friend, giraffe spirit animal, once again, who shows up pretty consistently for a lot of different readings in the live and things like that. This giraffe in this visual needs to take care of itself. If you think of horses in the wild, when they run around and do horse things and whatever they do, they naturally tend to wear down their hooves properly, so they don't need to get their hooves trimmed. If they are on a farm, to my understanding, they kind of need to get their hooves trimmed to keep them in a good length that's healthy for the horse, so the horse doesn't get injured. And if they get really long, it's really weird because they look like weird long toenails or weird long like elf shoes or something. And this giraffe has that happening to it. I don't remember, like I'm not a giraffe biologist. I'm going to say I'm not sure if the giraffe hooves work the same way, if it's different at all. But in this intuitive visual, the giraffe's hooves are like getting like longer in that way, where horses have that, the horse needs its hooves trimmed. So what is the main message? What's the main message for you guys with this here? Like really, 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 they said it like a bunch of reallys. Take care of yourself right now. Like take extra care of yourself right now. Like go harder than you think you need to even. This doesn't necessarily mean like waste away on the couch in the name of self-care. If you have to, for whatever reason, if you have like something going on, like that's fine. but it's like really double check your nutrition, your physical rest right now, that you're looking after yourself energetically. Like if you're an energy healer, like I'd be facilitating self sessions for yourself. If you are channeling, I'd be channeling for yourself as well, as something I'm hearing, or just putting extra effort into making sure your base needs and even beyond are taken care of. It's really going to set you up for success. And I feel like the message I'm hearing is not meant to be like a drag on you or like a drain on you, but people need you in some capacity. And people probably need you to be like good and on your game in order for you to show up for them. Because if this giraffe is like kind of on its side because it can't run on its hooves efficiently, it can't really get up and take care of its giraffe calf, right? Giraffes have calves, or baby giraffe. Circumvent the scientific and other terminology. That wasn't very scientific for calf, but you know what I'm saying. If it needs to take care of its calf or like defend its calf, like can it do that effectively if its hooves are too long and like weird and it can't stand properly and it's like just trying to get its own balance, and that is trying to take care of its kid, and then it just turns into a whole mess, and it may or may not effectively do what it needs to do at that point. So double check your self-care is really the message. Like hone it in, it's time, and now also the time to look at habits you need for your self-care. And in the next month or so, I'd look at examining that and potentially implementing that just to get a head start on the new year and just where you are meant to go and where you'd like to go as well. And it can be very simple. It could just be one thing you'd like to incorporate that is a cornerstone to creating other habits, and borrowing a little bit from The Power of Habit with that phrase, cornerstone habits, which is by Stephen R. Covey, I believe, something like that. And what's one thing that would be really effective for you and you taking care of yourself right now? Implement that, focus on that. Once that's a habit and it's just kind of either your routine, then you can look at naturally incorporating the next step for you regarding all of that. So you can start slow, you can start small, but I would do something. I guess they're done with that reading because that's what they're showing me. So I hope that helped, resonated, did whatever was for your highest good. The last thing they're showing me is this octahedron, that 8-sided geometry, which I believe people talk about in sacred geometry, but it is also known as one of the Dungeons and Dragons die, which is the 8-sided diamond-looking one. Side story. I used to play Dungeons and Dragons a lot more. I don't so much anymore. But one of the, they have the octahedron, the 8-sided die, and I was really used to that shape. And then I ordered like a crystal carving of an octahedron, and I mean, the Dungeons and Dragons ones are like long and they have really equal-sided faces. And then the one I ordered in this crystal was like really like stubby, and it was like really like fat and like wide, and it was like had like a square around it, and it was just I'm sure like as far as like intention of sacred geometry and holding that energy, it was fine. But as far as the physical look, it was really funny to me just how it was not the same. And maybe there's some type of difficulty with carving the crystals or something that made it more difficult. But anyways, as far as the message with the octahedron, which is probably the more important thing to get to here, or maybe not if that was like a synchronicity for you. What's the message? Oh, speaking of, actually, things are evening out for you. So I guess that flowed into it pretty well. If things are like lopsided in your life or very imbalanced, like there's going to be like a forced balancing. There's like I've got this last week, I think too, but like a justice energy coming in to balance things. What does this phrase mean? There's like it's for the highest good and it's for you. And it might just be in your personal world, but there's like this great equalization coming in. And it's definitely doesn't mean something like, oh, this person's really skilled at this thing and then they're not because of this equalization. It's more along the lines of some areas of your life might be in balance and they really need to be evened out. Like the example I'm hearing is maybe you're giving like all your attention to like a business and that's like all you're doing, but the classic example might be like someone who's missing out on their kids' lives because they're going so hard into their business. And it's like, yeah, you could argue it's for your kids because it brings in money to support the family and all that stuff. But it also goes back to that question of like, what is abundance to you? And is pouring all your time into this thing abundance and balance and working for you? Or is it lopsided and taking away from your abundance overall based on how it's impacting your other areas? And you don't have to beat up on yourself and judge it right now. Sit with it intuitively and be like, no, I feel like this is the right balance if that's right for you to spend 10, 12, however many hours in your business. Because right now I'm enjoying that and I feel great. And that's just what my business needs right now. And it's not a long-term like 5-year thing. It's like I just need to do it for until XYZ happens. And then I can, come back to this stuff. But maybe revisit your balance and be like, okay, am I balanced with how I'm approaching these areas of my life? Or are things lopsided right now in a way where, you might feel starved in an area and you might be overcompensating with one thing or trying too hard with one other thing to compensate for this area that's lacking, when maybe you're meant to be a flower with multiple flower petals that are all even instead of a flower with one big flower petal and five nubs, and it's like wilting over because it put all its stock into the one flower petal, you know. So or it's like it'd be like seeing a tree with one leaf or something like that. And if I don't know, something happens to that leaf, then like what's that tree gonna do? But actually, that sounds kind of interesting. I don't know if I want to see that, because I don't want to see a misshapen tree that has something wrong with it necessarily, but I'd like to be free from seeing that. But it sounds interesting at the same time to see like a big oak tree that's just like burp, a giant leaf or something. But anyways, I'm supposed to end this reading really soon. They're showing me an RC car as well. And the message I'm just hearing is spirit has things under control. You know, it's like the RC car is driven by spirit, and you might be afraid of things going off the rails in a negative way, but they're not going to. It's like the path is taken care of. Things are opening up in the right ways. You're kind of worried. You are really worried for nothing, were the exact words I heard. So that's it, I suppose. And I'm also hearing this last second message, like they're showing me ice cream, and it's like, you know, it's like melting, and things are not going to just melt away. Your abundance is not just going to fall away or be peeled away by spirit, and then you have nothing. And for some of you, if that does happen, I don't feel like that's any of you though. I don't even know why I'm saying it then, but there's just going to be really big abundance around the corner to replace that, because it's just not meant to happen where you lose everything or everything melts away or all your dreams fall apart. And you know, if all your dreams fall apart, there's just a better dream. So try to hold it loosely enough for spirit's plan is what I'd say. So hope that helped, resonated, whatever is for you, it's good. There, like I can, you know, sometimes these last like parts of the messages, it's like, wait. And like all of a sudden they're like showing me SpongeBob and all this stuff. So maybe that's just a sign, but we're going to start the fire signs reading in a second, but I'm going to hang out for just a bit. At every given moment, everything where it is where it is supposed to be. You're right, Cynthia. Brandon, these messages hit today? Heck yeah, that's what I like to hear. So thanks for letting me know, Gabby. How does it get any better than that? You're welcome. Oh, thank you, Moon. I appreciate it. Loving the night energy. Well, let's do this then. Let's consider it. I will definitely consider the night lives. I feel like it really depends, but oftentimes I feel like I do better a little bit. Not like just with intuition or channeling or anything like that, but just as a person moving in the world, sometimes I do a bit better at nighttime or later in the day. Took you on a journey? Perfect. Also, something I like to hear. I feel like it's working. I mean, it could be working even if there isn't a journey, but I feel like it's working if it takes you on a journey. It's nice to hear right before bed to prepare for a week. Hey, that makes sense. Yeah. Jessica says, that's super cool, Jessica. Congratulations. I hope that in time, and also asking that goes wonderfully and really helps you out or does whatever is for the highest good. And does whatever you're intending with that or better. Because that's really cool. I'm not very familiar with Marianne Williamson personally, but it sounds big because you're excited about it and posting about it, so it must be important. So I am excited for you. Okay, so normally I would hang out for a little bit longer between readings. They are in asking that I move it along a little bit more quickly, though. So we're going to start the fire signs reading in just a second. I'm going to drink a tiny bit more water, and then we'll start. So, all right. If you have a fire sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is going to be for you when you see it here live, or, you know, whenever you're seeing it on YouTube. And I'm just going to flow with the channel messages coming through for you from my spirit guides, the angels and source, and, also be working with my intuition for your and the highest good. So let's see what is for the highest good to come through for you today to help you out for your highest good and just to bring through what you need to hear right now to do whatever would be for the highest good. So first thing they're showing me is a rainbow. It's interesting because both sides at the end of this rainbow are red, if that matters at all. Good news for you is there are a lot of things from the past that are falling away. Sorry, one second, let me sit with this. A couple things I'm hearing. One, things from the past that have been difficult are falling away. You're entering a new phase. We all are, honestly, is something I'm hearing as well. So that's not just, that particular message is not just for the fire signs. We're all entering into this new phase. I really feel and get that 2024 is going to be huge, but more on that later. I'm sure I'll do something on that in the future. I already had a lot of messages come through in the free newsletter I facilitate as well. Not necessarily trying to plug that right now, but if you got the December channel messages on December, a lot of those segued into like messages on 2024 as well. If you do sign up for that now, you do get access to those, the past like channel messages in the month ahead. So you would get that if you feel called to it. But we'll get to 24. It's going to be really huge. We're shifting into that energy. In a lot of ways, it's a gateway into light, into lightness. I was really sitting with it. We'll get back to what it was originally getting to, by the way, in just a second, because there were other messages with that rainbow and things. For some reason, I'm being segued into this, but I was sitting with it, maybe it was just yesterday, the other day, and I was just kind of sitting with the energies of it, and I put my awareness on it. And one thing that really struck me, because a lot of us are already in 2024 energies now, like it really is hitting early. That came through in the newsletter as well, but it really struck me that there's like this whole new level of light that we're in or venturing into. It might, depending where you're at, may or may not take a bit to integrate because it's a whole new level. It's kind of never before seen is what I'm hearing. And you might have release happening. You might have a lot coming up that you weren't prepared to have come up to prepare you for this new phase and to make it the year that is meant to be for you right now. So just be prepared to step into light and be prepared to have every opportunity to go higher in yourself and in your life and for things to lighten up for you and for you to hit new levels of light. So there's more. So what is next here? Going back to the rainbow here, the other thing I was hearing for you with the rainbow is, oh, can I get the message again, please? Because it was a little bit ago I got that. It was something about things going really well after difficulty. It was like lightness after difficulty, like more freedom following difficulty, kind of like getting to the other side of something maybe, or maybe you're already on the other side of something. You're worried about things going dark again. I don't feel like they will, honestly. I feel like you're on track for lighter and brighter. You might have to be a little bit patient with that. Like as they said with those messages about like release and things like that, but there really is hope for you and this whole other phase that's going to rock your world in the best ways in the next year or so. It might also be 2025 that this shows up for you is something I'm hearing, or if you're watching this in the future, the next year or two is, I guess, what I'd say for a time frame, like 4 at the absolute latest. I want to say 3 at the latest for the timing I'm getting for you, but really positive things that rock your world in the best ways are coming in long term. So trust what's happening right now. I feel like you're getting the other side of some difficult things, even just if it's internal, whether it's external, internal, both, whatever. Wow. Okay. So that was a lot of different messages, but the next thing that would be that's good to come through for you. Let me sit with spirit guides and angels and source and see what they'd like to say for you next. So they're showing me this message of, it's something along the lines of if you were like pushing, I'm going to use a different analogy. If you were walking up a hill and it's like, it's difficult and you're like, it's difficult. Maybe I don't feel like it's this intense. And I want to say something like pushing a boulder up the hill, but it doesn't seem right as an analogy for some reason. Because they're showing this rainbow and there's like this center point of the rainbow, you know, and it's like you're going uphill, and it's like more difficult. It's like you expect that to continue to always happen. But there is a point where you hit this like crux point or this flux point where it gets easier and you're like pushing a boulder down the other side of a hill, like it just rolls, or it's like you're sliding down the other side of the hill, or you just like slide down the other side to get to a destination or to get to a new period. And you're almost to this like center point for you, whether it's internally, externally, or just something you're going through, where things like click a bit more and you're not just always going uphill. So don't expect life to be an uphill battle always. It really won't be. It's weird because it's almost like this part where it was like difficult has been preparing you for ease. And this sounds very weird, but it's like also preparing you to handle ease. Not sure how that makes sense as a message, but hopefully that makes sense to you. So that's it with that message. Let's move. I mean, that sounds very positive. Next, they're showing me this like teacup. So what's up with the teacup here? Okay. You know how there are stories of people and like they have exes who would get, more, I want to use the word like violence, and they'd like throw dishes around or something like that, or smash mugs or whatever people do. And it's usually that's like you're like, oh, I dodged a bullet sign, if it was like you broke up with someone or like they started doing that and like you're on your way out with that relationship or something. The message I was hearing was like to stay away from violence or excessive violence, especially in your personal world. Like if people are violent, they're like overly much, they're probably not your person. It's one thing if you have to like protect someone on the street and that's like your only way to make sure someone you love doesn't get injured or something, or harmed or something like that. It's like another if someone like craves violence. It's so strange as a message. It's more about just staying away from violent people and seeing that violent person kind of thing as a red flag and not as neutral territory. I getting a very strange message. It's not for all of you, but some of you might have been trained into seeing like that violence as a good thing, even in a partner. It's really not, is what I'm hearing. So very strange, but try to stay away from violence or excessive violence. If you were worried about video games, I guess video games are okay. So all you Fortnite players out there in chat, which I don't think is probably very many of you whatsoever. For people I'm familiar with here in the chat. But I don't know why that message came through, but it did. The other thing with like the teacup and all that, what else is coming up here with as a message here? Some of you are like afraid of things going sideways or becoming violent for you in some area of your life. I don't feel like they will, because like they're showing this like teacup on a saucer like tipping over and like things spill out and like the plate falls and shatters or something. And I feel like you're gonna be safe. Just pay attention to your intuition, like with people, directions you go in life. Should I take this job or not? Things like that, and you'll be fine. So weird message, but I hope that makes sense. Nothing to be afraid of, just really double check I'm hearing something like double check your intuition. I don't know if that's right, but maybe like make sure you're listening to your intuition, whatever phrase resonates for you regarding everything, because your intuition is going to lead the way. Okay, next message here. There is a message about things calming down for you, because the next thing in this teacup is like there's tea inside of it, and there's the word calm they're showing me, and then they're showing someone drinking it, and they're telling me it's about things calming. The words I'm hearing are like things are calming down for you. So the whole message is there's some type of calm coming in for you, or things are going to be calming down for you, especially if they've been tumultuous or stormy. You definitely don't deserve tumultuous or stormy 24/7. The storm can be there for a reason, but if you're living in the storm all the time, it's not necessarily the best way to go. And if that's your pattern, I'd consider changing that or looking into ways to change that or get out of that, because I don't feel like that's healthy. For others of you, it's just there's certain choppy waters metaphorically that are calming very quickly, which is good here. And I feel like calm is the way. If you can cultivate calmness in yourself, you're going to be doing very well. So, emotional regulation and, healing, releasing turbulent energies is something I'm hearing as well. Anything you can do to healthily maintain calm overall. Because I'm not trying to tell you to suppress your emotions. It's working with them or seeing through them or allowing them to process in a healthy way that leads you to being calmer more of the time, if that makes more sense as well. So they want to talk about the topic of abundance for you guys as well right now. Like, abundance is opening. The words I'm hearing are abundance is opening. Will you receive it? Like, they're showing this box or gift opening and there's like abundance inside. It's all magical. There's like unicorns and fairies and sparkles and your hopes and dreams and like everything you ever desired, which sounds wild, but that's what they're showing me and telling me about. And like what I'm hearing for you is like, hey, you can have this. You might have to work on receiving it, is also what I'm hearing with this, or be willing to receive it, or be willing to work on receiving it in some way. So meditations that are meant to open you to receive or receive what's for you, exercises or energy healing exercises, or sessions that are anything you can think of as an exercise, a meditation, something you can put on YouTube to open you to receive for the highest good or to work on receiving and being better at receiving is going to help you with this. Because it's like what I'm hearing is abundance is on your doorstep. Will you let it in? Are you willing to have that regardless of like what other people think? And you know what? Some other people might be jealous. And you're going to have to be okay with that. Like, like you might have to just learn to live with, some of you might have to learn to live with that a little bit and be like, that's okay. Because it's like, those people have every opportunity for abundance too. They have every choice in their life to move them towards abundance. They have to be willing to do that instead of turning on everyone else who has that to try to take it away from them to get even, or for whatever reason, or because they're coming from a wound, or they're operating underneath the wound and don't see through it quite well, or whatever's going on with that. It's not your job to appease those people. Weird message, but it's your job, if you want to call it that, to receive abundance so that everyone can have abundance. Because as you attain abundance and hold abundance in that frequency, you also, for the highest good and only for the highest good, open the doorway for other people to have it and embody it as well. Because you'll be a shining beacon of abundance. You'll be in that frequency of abundance, and that can spread. Not necessarily with you having to lose that abundance. Sure, there's the obvious way of like, oh, I have all this money, I can afford to give more now because I have all this money in my bank account and this bigger income. So I can afford to, you can afford to take care of your parents or, donate to this cause now that things like that. Like, that's one thing too. But being a shining example of abundance can also help people. One, because it shows it's possible for them, but two, again, as above, so below, you're opening it for the highest good for everyone. And that goes for things like healing, operating in ease, working on your receiving, being a healed person, being a high vibrational person. Doesn't mean you're grumpy, low vibe uncle or grandpa or whatever who's really stuck in their ways is going to become just like you tomorrow. But in their own ways, they might open to it at the right times for them if they're ready for that and if that's their path. But the people for, oh my gosh, grammar. The people for whom it is correct and of their path to open to that because of you will. And you're having an impact on the collective just by having abundance. And again, it's not necessarily hoarding at the expense of everyone else. And I definitely examine your beliefs around that if you're afraid to have things because of that, because there definitely is plenty of abundance to go around. But I would work on everything you need to in order to receive abundance. It's one of the key things for 2024, at least for you, maybe even through the next couple years, is like, what are you willing to have? What are you willing to receive in your life that's for you? And are you willing to have it all? Because you can. You just have to take the right actions. And maybe for some of you, it's believing that you can have it. But you might need to do something, in order to have it or something like that. So no, it's not a worthiness thing, because you are worthy. I mean, if you have to work through unworthiness, like, that's fine too. But I don't know. They're just saying, just realize all that. So that's kind of what they have to say about all of that. I hope that was helpful as a message coming through. So let's kind of see what else you'd like to bring through here. Here's a very strange message. There's this message about ancient healing, and like these ancient energies that have almost been like, I want to make sure I'm saying this correctly. So give me 1 second here. It's like people have been going through these healing cycles to heal ancient energies. A lot of them are actually taken care of already by now. We don't have to keep rehashing the same ancient frequencies and lessons on the planet, or for you personally. Or even like ancestrally for you is something I'm hearing. And you are going to have a lot of those cycles closing out. If you feel like you are someone who is perpetuating that, continuing for yourself, I definitely look into that and look into how can we do away with this pattern if it doesn't need to run anymore. Because a lot of healing is taken care of. Like, I'm really hoping this message is making sense for you. Hopefully I'm not losing some of you. And if I am, just bear with me for a second here while I get the words out here. Because I just feel like some of you are rehashing healing cycles you don't need to rehash anymore. And like, this is your permission to let that go and step into the new you, where you don't have to heal everyone else for them. You don't have to take on ancient patterns anymore to heal them, because they're taken care of. We're ready for a new energy where a lot of that can die off and crumble. I don't know why they're telling me to have you think about the Thanos. If you watch the Marvel movies, like Avengers, Endgame and stuff like that, where they snap their fingers and like the enemy dissolves into dust and things like that, whichever side you're talking about. It's almost like that is happening to a lot of these ancient things that need to leave. So what I'm hearing is perhaps a lot of what's upholding some of those ancient patterns of having to go through healing all the time is just us thinking, or people thinking they need to keep going through it when they can let that go. So this message might be in parts energetic to help you let go of that. And for those of you who are consciously aware of it, you'll know what I'm talking about. For those of you who are intuitively getting the message of what this is about, it's like, yes, that's, for those of you who don't understand what I'm talking about, like, that's okay. Let's just move on is what I'd say here. This one will make, anything else I need to say on that though? They're just saying like, there are a lot of healing cycles that are closing out. We don't need them anymore. So we're moving into a new energy, I guess. Okay. Anything else on that? Nope. They're showing me this mountain with this mountain climber. They're showing me the visual. If you are familiar with the Cliff bars, like the exercise bars that have tons of sugar, and I'm not convinced are healthy necessarily. Maybe depending on who you are and what you're doing. I don't know. If you're lifting a lot of weights and just focusing on calories, maybe it's fine. But they're showing that image of someone like climbing a mountain or climbing a cliff with like their cliff, oh my gosh, mountain climbing gear. And what is up here? I like this message. A lot of people are climbing mountains they don't need to climb anymore and have difficulties they don't need to have. Part of what this next year is about, for you at least, but potentially for other people as well, is getting rid of the things you don't need to be doing that are overly difficult or don't need to exist anymore, that are maybe lower, and having ease instead where you're ready to receive it. That might have been part of what those healing patterns were about as well, that they were talking about. Maybe that's going to help that make more sense. But there's going to be other areas as well where people or we think things have to be a certain way. Like, for instance, maybe you're running a story where it has to be difficult to make money. Or maybe you're running a story where it's always difficult to find love. And the newsflash is it doesn't have to be. It's like those are stories and patterns that need to crumble for you to have better abundance, perhaps, for some of you. But that's kind of what they're talking about right now with like healing patterns and ancient history, and letting that go is, where is there undue difficulty or strife? Where can that leave now for your personal life? Because it doesn't need to exist. So maybe it's time to examine some personally beliefs around some of those things, or just notice what's going on in your world and notice what you think about things. And if there's a mountain you're climbing, maybe ask if you need to climb it. I'm all about, well, I want to be careful with what I put out there with this. I understand, and in some instances would probably even applaud just doing what needs to be done, even if there is some difficulty with it, if that's just the way it's going to be showing up. However, if it doesn't need to show up that way, what else is possible, I suppose? So let's move on to the next thing. I feel like I beat that to a pulp a little bit. There's another message about how you might be thinking things that you think are in your way actually aren't in your way. So they're showing me these boulders, and you're on this path, and there's these boulders in front of you, and you think they're in the way, but you can kind of like walk just right in between them. Or it's like, if you've ever seen those fake boulders that people use to prank people, where it's just like plastic that's hollow and it's really easy to move, and maybe it looks kind of realistic. So you're like, oh man, how am I going to get past this giant boulder? But if you just like touched it and just like flop over or something like that, or you can just carry it on with one, really easily. It's kind of like that. So if you would really like to do something, but you think all this stuff is in your way, like just try it, or just try to get some of the things you think you need, or you might have ideas for other ways you can do things that'll work just fine for you to get started with something or to do something, and just try. Because there are things you think are blocked off right now. It could even be regarding abundance or money or certain things, or just anywhere that really aren't blocked off for you. And you have a lot of opportunity there. So, and maybe just ask your spirit guides, ask source to show you where that is so you can see through it a bit more or fully and just walk right past it. Or just ask source to get you past that boulder so you don't need to worry about it anymore. If you're freaking out about this message, which is like one of you or maybe just a couple of you, just ask to be led through that, and led past that. So they're almost done here. Sometimes they like to close out readings with like Jolly Ranchers or other pieces of candy, and they are doing that for this reading as well. It's a green apple flavor. They're showing like me the candy sour warheads as well. Like there's something sour about it. So what's the message here regarding the sour candy and things showing up here? I feel like you have what I'm hearing is there are a lot of rewards coming. You're afraid of them being sour, but they're not actually going to be sour. Like they're going to be sweet. So maybe you're going to like meet up with a friend and you're like, it's been a couple years and you're like, oh man, they're going to be like this. They're going to judge me for being spiritual now. And they're going to think I'm lame because I'm dating this other person that's different than I told them I wanted to date 2 years ago. And or you're going to think of my dress, and I don't know, like something like that as an example. And then you meet up with them and they're like, really awesome and they're super supportive of you spiritually, your spirituality. And they're like, yeah, I know you wanted that to date that person, but I didn't really feel like they were right for you. Actually, I just bit my tongue because I didn't want to, rock the boat in that scenario. And I really just wanted you to be happy. So, you just might be surprised at how well some certain things work out where because there were messages about blow-ups. I think that was the collective reading, not this reading, and things like that. But there are certain things or certain other things that are actually going to be a lot better for you than you expect, which is fantastic. Or maybe it's like working a job and you're like, oh, working this job's going to suck. I have to have a boss. And, you might think you have to have a boss and coworkers that suck, but it might be like the best decision you ever made. And you made like all these awesome people and you have great career advancement, or as an example, or something like that. And it's actually not that bad. So, and sometimes as we heal certain patterns in ourselves that were the cause or part of some of the difficult circumstances of the past, those things don't show up as much in any area or at all. So you might be used to something happening with, like, you always have crappy bosses or something like that, and they always suck and it reminds you of your mom, but you might have healed that pattern either through the past bosses or through a different circumstance in your life, or through your mom directly, or through a healing session you booked, or some like a class you took or something else. And you might be ready for the lighter version of those experiences. That's more what you always desired in those experiences, where it's not just like total suckiness and rehashing your experiences with your mom again through your boss or whatever. So they're done. They are done. I hope that helped, resonated, to whatever's for us good. We'll move to the earth signs in just a second after I drink some water and maybe check in with chat and you guys and see how you're doing and hang out a second. But there's a green apple emoji. Oh my gosh. You're welcome, Dimension Drifter. You're welcome, Mariana. Oh, Moxelton, it was that you gave me 4 purple hearts and 2 exclamation points, but the way the exclamation points looked on my hand or arm in the background made it look like pants. I'm just like, a pants emoji, which maybe is. You're so welcome, Abundance Love Joy. I'm so glad to hear it. You're welcome, Kelly. Hi, Bob White. I am doing pretty great. How are you doing? I hope you're doing well. Love all the geek references. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. What was that? I got probably a lot more where that came from. Ooh, sorry to hear that. Authentic. Well, I say I'm sorry to hear that, but I don't know if that's the right way for me to approach that, because you're saying it's been one of the biggest harm periods of your life. And what I would actually rather say is I hope that leads to great things for you and some of the best things yet for you overall. At the same time, I understand it can potentially feel or be rough as you're going through that. So I hope it goes as smoothly and well for you as would be for your highest good, and that it leads to great things. It's funny because Moxelton says it's funny because they hate pants. Screw pants. I'll get a sign on the back of my wall, and it's just, it's unmirrored. It'll just be like a big poster with pants, but then like a red circle and a dash through it. And it'll just be like, no pants allowed. And we'll all just wear, sweat shorts. You're welcome, Cosmic Cat Art. It's great to have you here. The opposite of the no shoes, no shirt, no service signs. It's just going to say pants. Oh, shoot. No pants, service. Yeah. The nerd to spiritual pipeline, that can be very real. It's interesting because I just heard a message or just heard something along the lines, and maybe it's just a thought. No. what I am getting to call what I just experienced as a semi-channeled experience, where it was like, and I'll check in on if this is the legit, what I just, conceptualized. It's like some people maybe feel like there is supposed to be more than just the physical reality or the mundane, as people call it. And perhaps that's part of why people, well, there's probably multiple reasons. So never mind. I'm not going to pigeonhole it. All right, guys. No pants equals service. That probably sounded weird for anyone who just tuned in. So we're about to start the channeled reading for the Earth Signs in a second. They would actually like me to start now, so let's flow. Sorry, I'm seeing the laugh emojis in the chat here. All right, start right now. Let's go. Earth signs. If you have an earth sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is going to be for you when you see it, whether you're here live or watching on YouTube, whenever you are watching. I'm just going to channel messages from my spirit guides and angels and source and flow with the channel messages coming through for you, for your highest good, and working with my intuition for your highest good, just to, and the highest good for this reading, just to see what you need to hear, bring through what you need to hear, bring through what would help you out. That would be that's good for you to hear. Let's start here. So we're starting with a rainbow once again for this reading, but in this instance, you are venturing through this rainbow. It's like this rainbow, but it has these like Super Mario clouds with smiley faces on either end. And you're supposed to kind of go through this rainbow and like come out the other side. And it's kind of like you're leaving your old life behind. Sounds like there's a lot of messages similar to that. Maybe not exactly like that, but things like that are coming through. I'm hearing this message like you really are a new you. You might not realize it yet, but you are, and you're going to see the physical manifestations of that around you and within you and how you're behaving like very soon. It's definitely a higher version. It's definitely something you've been birthing like perhaps all year. They're showing an interesting example. Like, how people have things like eye surgery or I hesitate to use plastic surgery as an example for this, but they're showing me something similar to that. Like if someone gets plastic surgery for their nose or something like that, and they have like all this bandaging up, and they have to kind of keep it covered and bandaged up while it like recovers and becomes the new version of it, I guess. And solidifies that, and they have to keep that bandaged and covered and safe for a while. It's kind of like everything's good, you're ready for the bandages to come off, and like the new version of you is birthing. You might have been like contained for a while. You might have been stepped away from work you've been doing for a bit, or maybe been a bit more isolated depending on what your circumstances and what you've been doing and how you've been living, or just staying away from certain friend groups or maybe even family members or people in your life to safeguard this. But you're definitely ready to birth into this, and again, it's like you already are it. It's like time to be fully it, if that makes sense, and you're going to see the birth of that, which is really actually pretty exciting. You definitely have a new life ahead is what I'm hearing soon, next year or so. It could be a bit further out for you if this is a slow process for you and like a slow birth, but it doesn't have to be. So this is definitely a common message about new things being birthed and coming in, but you're definitely gonna have a lot of new things coming in. I don't even think you expect this, but I'm hearing you don't expect this. Like it's gonna turn out well. They are showing me a butterfly as well that's turning up, which represents this, among other things, for the highest good, at least to a certain degree. So you might be seeing a lot of butterflies as signs of this transformation and new world, that even just like a new personal world that you're ready for. So you're ready for the new you, which is exciting here. I really feel like everything is about to change around you and within you, but you're ready for it. And it's kind of like already ready to go. It's just like someone flips the switch. It's like someone builds this machine and they get all the bugs worked out. Not that there had to be bugs in the first place. Like there's this angel with this like generator or machine or something, and it's ready to go. And it's like maybe you don't realize it's there until they turn it on and all the lights come on and everything starts operating at full capacity. And you're like, holy crap, I didn't realize this wild thing was right there. Or maybe some of you are like, oh, I didn't realize I had this in me to do this thing. I don't know. Really interesting, but definitely a new you coming online. So I feel like I've hit that message quite a bit. What's the next message for you guys here? They're showing me a frog here. So frog spirit animal showing up once again. This frog is just sitting on this lily pad and like waiting. He's like waiting for flies to come by that he can eat, snap at with its tongue and eats. He's like waiting for lily pads to float by for him to jump onto to get to his next destination. But he's just like waiting. This is a reminder to, well, let me double check really quickly. There's going to be a lot of action coming your way to take. You might have to kickstart it by taking action towards something you desire or making sure you're implementing things you're learning in your life. If you're like learning how to do something like build a business, for example, and you're getting all this information, try implementing it, even if it's just a little bit at a time, even if it's in small ways. Like taking action is going to be huge and kickstart the things you need right now even. So even if it's just a little bit of action, a little baby frog leap. Because if this frog goes and looks for flies to eat, it's going to find like a ton of flies like right around the corner. Like it just has to, or it just jumps into the water and it finds whatever food frogs eat in the water, like right there. Or it just, it does something, maybe it just turns a little bit to the left and it sees all the flies that have been like flying around behind it the whole time. And it was just like waiting for them to fly, waiting for the flies to fly in front of it. It just wasn't happening. So all you have to do is try, is what I'm hearing, and like make a move, take some action. It's kind of like if you were playing a chess game, nothing's going to happen if you don't make a move. Your opponent's just going to be sitting there waiting for you to make a move because it's your turn. And that may or may not be a perfect analogy, but consider it like that. I know it doesn't always work like this, but right now consider it like you make a move. I hesitate to say this because I don't want to lock this in your mind as like a too literal, but if you're making moves, the universe is going to be making moves too in big waves to support you with that. Because it's like, it could even be like the universe has done a lot of work to bring these things really close to you. You just have to do the work to go and like get them. It's like, maybe the universe put, the example they're showing me is someone like watching TV, they want to change the channel. Maybe the universe put the remote on the coffee table for you instead of in your lap. Maybe the remote was in the kitchen table. You're like, I'm not going to the kitchen. And the universe is like, okay, grabs the remote, puts it on the coffee table. And it's just like, you just need to get up a little bit and grab the remote, or get up and move a few feet, or, do something to start moving towards getting the remote. Because it might not, there are definitely times where things just land in your lap, like that happens. But I feel like whatever this is about, you might have to get up and make a little bit of effort to maybe meet the universe a little bit, or get what the universe has brought close to you, not to limit it. I hesitate to say these things sometimes. If it's what I'm hearing, it's what I'm hearing. And if that's the message, that's the message. I never would like to create things being overly difficult for you, or create you having to do more than you actually have to. I'd like to co-create the highest and best reality possible for us, including you who is tuning in, if that's part of my role for these, if it's for the highest good. Because I have had things happen where, what's the best way to explain this? Sometimes people talk about like words create and things like that. I do feel like the universe is a bit more lenient with us. I don't think it's always like, oh, universe. I don't think the universe is like, oh, you said bad word, now bad thing happened, ha ha ha. Like, oh, yeah. It's like, I do honestly feel the universe is like infinitely intelligent, infinitely wise. Perhaps, you could say all-knowing, and unconditionally loving, compassionate, forgiving, magnanimous. I don't feel like the universe is dumb, where it's just like always only just going to manifest everything you think no matter what. And like, you're, haha, too bad, necessarily. I do feel like there's some compassion in the universe necessarily. Which is why I don't always vibe with all the teachings out there on like law of attraction or manifestation. I like a lot of what's out there. There's like a lot of good things out there for sure. But while I have to do the reading and bring through the words that are coming through that are going to be accurate and helpful and for the highest good to say, I'd like to always be free from creating anything that's lower than the highest and best it can be at the same time. Does that make any sense? Because there have been times I've watched readings. I'll tell this story really quickly, where the reader will be talking about the future and these great things happening, and it will feel really good to me and really great to me. I'd be like, okay, cool. The future feels really great. But then they'd say these weird things like, and I perhaps understand why they would say it. Or maybe there were certain people I needed to say it for just in case, but then they'd be like, oh, I'm not promising the future is always going to be great, and there will still be challenges and difficulties, and life is still going to be lessons. And all of a sudden, like that energy I was feeling of the future turned into like challenges and lessons, and like it felt bumpier. And when that future happened, it's like, yeah, those great things were there. I felt that, and I felt the energy of the experiences where I could tell what was happening. But those bumps and challenges and things that weren't there before they said them also seem to show up. And I do feel like there are ways around that as a listener or someone viewing a reading where you perhaps can create a higher experience of something a reader is saying. Perhaps, maybe not always, depending on just what's for the highest good to come through and what spirit really would like to say. And maybe it also depends on how legit the reader is and things like that. Kind of hate to say it. But there are some readers I'm a little bit wary of WARY listening to, because it seemed like the results I'd get from watching their readings would be a little bit more frenetic and chaotic than if I didn't watch their readings, just based on like energetically what seemed to show up and what I felt during the reading. So I know this sounds a little bit weird, and hopefully this is making sense to you. Maybe some of you experience this yourself and you kind of get it, but I definitely make sure you're listening to people who bring you up and bring you to a better place, and don't in any way create a worse experience for you than would have shown up otherwise. And you can kind of discern that perhaps by reading the energies. And yeah, I don't know. Weird message. I don't want you to be helpless to the things you listen to either. So it's kind of it's a very interesting balance and thing I'm trying to talk about here. But I wanted to say that because that would help some of you is what I'm getting. But at the same time, I do have to honor the channeled and intuitive messages that are coming through for the reading and not curtail that necessarily. So, oh my gosh, I hope I didn't confuse you guys. Some of you I might have, so I apologize. I'm going to ask them to round that out and correct that and clarify that so it makes a bit more sense, perhaps. But for now, we need to move forward. So what else would be that's going to come through for you guys right now? And, it's not necessarily like every single thing about the reading is like just creating things. It is also like, here's what's happening and here's what's going on and here's what spirit would like to say or has to say, and here's would help you. There's that too. So could be a bit of a balance depending on how you interpret it. Okay, let's move on here. Next thing they're showing me, we started with a rainbow, but there's a bit of a golden rainbow showing up here. And there's like touches of like metallic silver and platinum. So it's like this precious metal rainbow, which is really interesting. So what's up with the message with the rainbow here? Funny that we just talked about what we just did, but the message I'm hearing is there are higher realities coming in for you that are of a higher frequency than your past. So I actually feel like you are going to have, what I'm hearing is you're going to have an easier time creating reality to a higher degree. And actually, if you were someone who would have negative experiences listening to people, there are going to be less negative experiences from you listening to people. So I guess that kind of covers that, interestingly enough, because one of the messages that's come through for 2024 and beyond, and this has come through in full channel mode messages for the membership, the Let's Go Higher membership I facilitate. I believe they've had me they've channeled this through for the free newsletter I do as well, but there are all these messages that have come through where it's like manifestation is rising. I believe it came through for this month. December is when we're filming this. And this energy will apply to you whenever you're seeing this because it's a timeless reading, but this energy of like manifestation rising and I believe getting more potent, but it's also like becoming more higher aligned where it's like source is, what's the best way to say this? Please take the essence of what I'm saying here with this. It's like manifestation is more divinely like safeguarded or overseen. So if you've had like weird or lower experiences with manifestation, like that's going to start to go away. Like it's more divinely guided and perhaps divinely orchestrated. So you're going to be having higher experiences and results with it because there's this higher harmonic with manifestation that's coming online on Earth and perhaps in the universe, if that counts. Also, more people are waking up to manifestation and more people are waking up to what they can create and co-create with the universe, with each other, with the world. So a lot of higher harmonic ways of things working are coming online. So it might be like before you had to be like, oh, you need to, and I do sometimes feel it's good to watch your words. But what I'm hearing is maybe before you had to really watch out about saying this word and the XYZ thing. And there's going to perhaps be something akin to more leniency with it, where it's like, yeah, still probably good to see like what energy you're putting out there, where you're coming from, things like that. But there's a bit more safeguarding about what shows up regarding your manifestations. And if you are moving in directions that might not be what you'd like and you don't realize it, there might be a bit more of like a second or third chance to correct things as opposed to just getting bludgeoned, because like one thing I'm hearing is like people are waking up to how manifestation works and it's not always how we've been taught, and sometimes we have to forge our own path with it to create our highest and best reality, in addition to the things we've learned along the way, maybe from others or perhaps as things we've heard. I don't know if I'm saying this perfectly, so I'm hoping this is landing right for you and helpful for you, but there is this like, the words I'm hearing are higher harmonic of manifestation where things just work out a bit better for people regarding manifestation, or just all the way better here. And that's what this golden rainbow was symbolizing as well for this message, is that higher way of things working. And it's interesting because there are things that happen that I've encountered, and I've seen other people talk about it as well, where it's like things upgrade. And there's a couple different ways you can look at this. Like manifestation itself and the way it works can upgrade, as far as how it works on the planet or for people, or maybe for particular people. Like even things like energy healing or intuition or channeling, and like the ways people have those gifts can upgrade for those individuals. But it can also upgrade on the planet and become easier for people, is like a way I could phrase it, or something akin to that. So there are upgrades that are hitting like every area of the planet, and that might be part of why things have been a little bit rocky for some people in the past year, like even over the past year, is these upgrades coming into how things work. But once it gets settled in, it's like perfect, and it's like what people have been wishing things have been like. So for example, you might have been thinking to yourself, man, I wish that energy healing was working more like this, instead of me having to go through all this rigmarole, or something. Like if you had a process or something that seemed like a bit much to you, for example. And then it turns into that, and you're able to create that or receive that or have that be how it works. So different tools we utilize can upgrade, certain ways things work can upgrade. Keep that in mind. We're going to close that topic because we've been on that for a second here. Next thing to show me are these clouds here. I feel like you've been doing things that you haven't perhaps needed to be doing, and like anywhere you're wasting your time is going away. So you're going to have a lot of fluff leaving regarding your actions. like if you were trying to tear down a wall, you wouldn't use a pillow. You wouldn't be like hitting it with a pillow and be like, I just need to hit this wall 100 times with this pillow, and maybe, just maybe, I will make a dent. And I don't know, maybe that could work. Maybe you have a wild pillow, or maybe that wall is not very well built, or I don't know. But you'd probably rather have like a hammer and you'd rather every action counts as much as it can. So if you've been taking actions that you feel like haven't been working, I feel like you're gonna be getting the actions that work. You're gonna be siphoning through things and be shown like, no, here's what you need to do. Here's this thing that's gonna work for you, instead of wasting all this time. I don't know, like the example I'm here is like, maybe there's a specific type of post you've been making, and you've been making this post to grow a following, maybe grow a business or something like that. Maybe, whatever you're making posts on social media for in this example. And maybe there's just a different type of post that would work better, have the impact you're looking to have more, and would help you to grow your business. And you just need to own that and try that out. And they're kind of, I wouldn't necessarily want to create this as the definition of insanity, but there's that quote where people say like, oh, you know what, the definition of doing things over and over again and expecting different results. I don't know. Sometimes if it's like a chip away thing, that works, but so it really depends on where you're at and what the circumstances are. But it's kind of time to switch it up and see what actions would be effective, or those are just coming in. You'll be shown that you don't need to worry about it too much. And I feel like they're like that. So I feel like that's more the message with all of that here. There is a lot of gold coming in for you. As far as what that means, I'm getting messages about abundance turnarounds, ideas that lead to abundance, you realizing the gold that you are, that maybe you've kind of hidden over just based on past experiences or even your childhood, and like maybe you realizing your worth, which is going to be golden for you, because then you can take action based on that worth and not action based on what you think you're worth that's not worth what you're worth. That's probably less than what you're worth, because your value is infinite, at the end of the day. If you look at it etherically, is what I'm hearing. And usually we get our ideas about what our value because of other people and like their ideas of their value, like your family and all that stuff, things in the world. And you don't need to live like that, is what I'm hearing. If you need to hear that, like you can uncover and realize your value and operate based on that and truth and intuition, and maybe even your truth, if that's a phrase you resonate with. I don't personally always like that phrase, but that doesn't matter if the reading is for you, and you do. But that's going to be much more powerful than trying to measure yourself based on other people and what they have and what they do and what you think makes them worthy. It's kind of time to go within and recognize your value intrinsically to receive what you need to receive and what you're worthy of receiving, which might be way even greater than what this other person has that they allow themselves to receive. So keep that in mind. Even if they seem like they have a lot, what else is possible? So they're kind of done with this reading. This kind of turned into like a rant, I feel like, about a much different topic than I was expecting it to be on. So I hope this is what you needed. This helped and resonated and maybe helped put some puzzle pieces together for you regarding action in your life and what you need right now. Definitely wishing you the best right now as well. Anything else last second here? The last second thing that's showing up here is a tiger. And this tiger is giving me the word proud. But it seems like it's more proud of you because it's coming up to you, it's snuggling you. There's like a heart. And the energy, what I was feeling when this tiger showed up and getting was more like it's proud of you. So I'm getting that spirit is proud of you. I feel like for the most part, spirit is proud of certain choices you've made recently, even just like to turn things around or try different things or try to make your actions count even. And spirit is rooting for you to have the success you desire and for you to achieve certain dreams you have. Like spirit is actually on your side. So that's really cool. And I'm also hearing like you have the power. So it sounds a bit trite maybe, but I don't think it is if it's the actual truth, where you don't think you can have things or do certain things, but you have the power within you to actually have those things, do those things, create certain things. And you just need to realize that, or try it and see what you can actually do instead of prejudging, self-judging, presuming or assuming, projecting, or, whatever. Because sometimes if you just try things, you can show yourself what you can do instead of just prejudging it and not trying, at least give yourself the shot is what I'd say. Okay, so I hope that helped, resonated, did whatever's for you guys good. We'll move to the air signs in a second. That was for the earth signs. Resonates with me. Perfect, Cynthia. I'm going to stretch and crack my back or something and drink water and... Ooh, okay. So abundance, love, joy. You said manifestations. Hopefully this is the end of that limiting old saying, be careful what you wish for. The second I read that, my spirit guides were like, yes, 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 that. So it is more along those lines. What I'm hearing about that, like that saying, be careful what you wish for and all that, is like people kind of created that. It didn't have to exist. I know that sounds freaky and weird. But if you think of a lot of things in the world, and even spirituality, that can be the case. I kind of have to be careful with that. But that's kind of, what's the best thing to say here? Hopefully you get it. I'll leave it at that for now. I don't want to beat that to a pulp. Thank you, Spence, for letting me know. This was an experience, definitely different. Yeah, I see what you're saying. It was a different experience than usual, but very well received. Glad to hear it. However you meant it. And by the way, I don't mind typos in chat or anything like that. I know, like, sometimes you have to like type fast to get the message out, or autocorrect hits, or weird things happen. So I totally understand. If you guys typo, if any of you were worried about that at all. Like, I definitely don't judge that. Hopefully I didn't make it like worse by talking about it. Robin Rice says, in general, it's just good to realize you are the creator. And my spirit guides are like, yes, yes, yes. Or Aspired on, it is Earth Angel 444. Good to see you, by the way. I will absolutely have that repost up in the next couple days, if I can. Thanks, Bob White. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the reassurance. How does it get any better than this? Yeah, I wasn't doing what Spirit asked. I was told to move on stuff. I hear you. Generally, it is probably good to do, have the right balance with it, but heed what Spirit is saying at the very least. It usually pays to listen, is what I'd say. I really appreciate that, Bob White. Thank you. Moving now? Heck yeah. Good work, Authentic Mystic. You got this. Okay, so we're going to start the air sign, sun, moon, or rising reading very, very soon. So if you're one of those air sign, I didn't mean to say that. One of those air sign people. If you're one of those air sign people out there, there's lovely air sign people out there. We're going to start that soon. Not to slip into a semi-Australian accent. All right, we're starting now. So if you have an air sign, sun, moon, or rising, this is going to be for you when you see it. It's meant to be, whether you're live or on YouTube. I'm going to channel my spirit guides and angels and source to bring through any of the messages that would be for your highest good, anything you need to hear that would be for your highest good, anything that would help you out for your highest good. And I'll be working with my intuition for this as well, for all that. So let's begin. What I'm hearing first is you're walking away from a lot of things, or will soon, but or you have. It's actually leading in a really good direction though. So don't be afraid to walk away from things you know aren't serving you. Of course, things you, have been hesitant to walk away from, despite this, oh my gosh, signs or messages you've been getting. Excuse me once again. Sometimes these people, well, never mind. I'm not going to say that. What I'm trying to get to, though, is maybe there are things you've been like getting to walk away from, but you're afraid of like losing something or something you're getting out of the situation if you walk away from it. But Spirit has been pretty adamant, either as an example, or some of you might literally be going through that. It's like, it's okay to walk away at the right time. I'm not trying to say to jump ship from your job without a backup plan, instantly. Like, sometimes it's good to do things safely and work with the universe on that in a different way, where things are lined up a bit more easily for you. Sometimes it's good to plan things out a little bit, and hopefully your intuitive process, so you know the difference between jump ship, like, no, now it's imperative, or jump ship, like, yeah, jump ship, start looking for, you don't have to like leave. But let me just go a little bit deeper in this message about walking away from things. They were showing me the Eight of Cups tarot card a little bit. Like, they flashed that intuitive visual as I was saying this as well. So I just feel like it's going to pay dividends to walk away from anything you need to, or start planning that out. And if it's anything you can walk away from and it's not a big deal, but you need to, like, perfect. It's not a big deal as in like there's not a lot of risk, I suppose. Like, if it's walking away from a person, like, you're gonna have new love, eventually, like, that'll come in, especially if you're younger, like 24 or in your 20s, or maybe even like, not that people older in life can't have new love too. I hear about that all the time. I've had plenty of one-on-one readings with women in their like 40s, 50s, or even older, who would talk about all the people they're dating, or should I date this person or this person. So like, I know it can show up at any time, and I'm definitely not trying to limit you, but there was like a specific message, like, if you're younger and you're afraid of never having love again, like, that's total BS. Like, you'll have love again. It's what like, you have plenty of opportunity for that to come in for you in the future here. So do what you know is right for you. The other thing they're talking about is walking away from patterns. Like, there might be some resistance to walking away from certain habits, things you're doing that you might be justifying to yourself right now, maybe because other people are doing, but they don't like feel right to you, or they're not getting very good results. The weird example I'm getting is something about like dating coaches, where it's like, a dating coach might be saying like, yeah, you gotta walk up and do a backflip and then say this line, but it has to be this energy, and you can't be needy, but you can't be forward, but you can't be not forward, but you can't. And just like, it's just like a mess. It's just like not working for you. I mean, I guess in that example it would be pretty obvious, and you kind of need to do your own thing and figure out your own way, or maybe even pioneer a little bit, and trust your own intuition and instincts regarding talking to someone you're interested in, or approaching people you're interested in, or messaging them, or whatever you do, and do what feels right to you, instead of getting swept up in the patterns and beliefs of others that may or may not be right for you, I remember in periods of my own life, even like before I got into like this and like really worked with my intuition consciously, where I would do way better going based on what felt right in the moment and just by instinct and what I felt called to say, especially in dating in my early 20s or late teens, than when I'd like read a book and try to do what the book said and like copy paste it, or try to listen to this dating coach and try to do what the dating coach said, and then just watch it like just implode in the greatest fashions. And some of it was harmless and fun too, but just letting you know you could trust yourself is something I'm saying with all this too. And all that to say, like, just walk away from what's not serving, what's not working. Consider it at the very least, or consider making some adjustments and all that, because I just feel like you trusting yourself is going to be one of the best ways to go right now for all of you. It might not just be for the air signs. So next thing, we had this image show up for like the fire and the collective readings. I think it was like a volcano. This one's a bit different. This one is about like nurturing the fire within, nurturing your passions, like maybe even nurturing your zest for life and kind of stoking the inner fires and the flames within to bring passion back into your world. Because like this volcano is, I'm not saying this is you dying out, but this volcano is dying out. It's like losing aspects of it. It's losing like joy. It's kind of puttering out. And the volcano is meant to, I mean this in a positive way for you. Don't jump to conclusions right away here unless you're getting the intuitive information. But this volcano is meant to explode. Like it's meant to be a volcano. It's not healthy for this volcano in this scenario, an intuitive message to like peter out, and not do what it's supposed to do. And even if it explodes in this metaphor, causes a town to evacuate, maybe that town needed to evacuate. Maybe it's kind of pulled from an earlier example. That evacuation causes one person in that town to meet the love in their life in the next town over, or it causes people to start a business they never would have started before, or maybe that town just needed to move. Maybe it was just time for that town to be over and people not to live next to that volcano. You being yourself, and I say this, I want you to take this. My desire is that you receive this the correct way or in the best, healthiest ways for you. Like that volcano being itself, even if that is a destructive force in some ways, because destruction does not always have to be a negative thing, is going to help everything around it go the way it's supposed to go. If the sun stopped shining because it was afraid of how it was perceived being so exposed and vulnerable, like then all of life on earth would die out. Like the sun needs to be the sun and shine. But I hesitate to use this example. It's a little bit on the edge, but Genghis Khan and like the Mongols and like the huge swath of destruction they created, which I don't think is the best example because I think that's a little bit darker than is really the example I'd like to go for in this example. Some historians would argue, I used to listen to Hardcore History with Dan Carlin when I did driving as a job, and he talked about the Mongol Empire. I think it was an empire at one point. And he was talking about how like some historians argue that like the creative destruction that occurred through that Mongol Empire and the Mongol horde sweeping through like all the lands that it did, like allowed for new technologies and new things to spring forth that otherwise wouldn't, because of some of the ways the Mongols operated. Like my understanding is like Genghis Khan would be like, oh, he'd ransack a town, but then he'd be like, you, what is your skill and profession? Like you, what are you good at? And then he'd put them to work at what they were good at. And they'd start to invent new things and create things that didn't exist before, to my understanding. And yeah, some other horrible things happened as well. And I'm not condoning that or saying that was like the best way things could have happened necessarily. It was what it was, but you bringing destruction based on truth or light or what's for the highest good could be the very thing the world needs. An example could also be, what's a better example here? Maybe it's your role in a certain scenario to bring truth into a certain workplace. And if you bring truth into that certain workplace, certain things are going to blow up, like certain, people that are managers might lose their jobs, but it's because they were doing some underhanded things. Or maybe the business actually goes under because of those truths that came out, but that business was really employing some really shady business practices. So it's like actually what's for the highest good to happen. And like maybe that business going down sets these workers who were kind of in this energy they didn't want to be in it's like a shady position to find maybe their true calling in life because this position gets destroyed or something like that. So what I'm also saying with all of this is go towards what you dream of, and you don't have to tiptoe around other people. You don't have to hide your passion or light to, as this volcano is trying to save the town, I guess, like save the town, like if that town's supposed to go, or to save certain things in your life if you're trying to keep certain dynamics in your life alive that actually aren't for that. It's good to stay alive, whether it's, again, a job situation or something like that. important that you're being yourself. I felt like there was a different message as well with like the stoking the inner flame and passion besides just being yourself and letting that play out in the world in the ways it's meant to. I'm definitely not saying go bash people over the head because Brandon said be a volcano. It's but let me sit with this as well here. It's like some of you are losing your flame, and it's not like because of other people, because you're a victim, but it might be because you're afraid of what other people think, or you're afraid of rocking the boat. But you have to be the volcano and rock the boat and let that be okay, and not try to save everyone else within reason by dimming your lights or keeping yourself from what you're passionate about or keeping yourself from your zest for life or anything like that. And it's okay to be a fire in the world. Some things are supposed to burn. Hope that makes sense. I'm going to move on to the next message that they'd like me to get to here. The good news is I do see your passion getting restored, like this flame inside of this volcano. I know there's probably not like a literal like bonfire in a volcano, like kind of fire, but the flame or lava in this volcano is being sparked to life and roaring again. So that is coming in, which is great, but you need to let it happen and do your best not to suppress it if you feel that coming up. And if you have any trauma about people bashing you over the head about you being passionate, even if it's about like something or something like that, like even if it's just like your mom saying, oh, that's silly, don't do that, or something like that, like it's probably time to work through that and heal that and release that. They're showing me this example of how, you know, in like the 90s or 2000s or maybe even the 2010s, like parents were like, most parents, I believe, tended to be like, oh, video games are so bad. Oh, you're wasting your life. But then you have, and I know it's maybe something you could talk a little bit about. There might be a bit more nuance with this. But then there's esports, and then people are making millions of dollars playing video games, or there's streamers. People are making millions of dollars like streaming video games on the internet, and or were, probably still are. And so like all this opportunity opened up for people who would have followed their passion, even if that was societally and parentally judged as that person was growing up. And maybe for you it was singing and something snarky someone said about your singing voice. Maybe for you it was art and your parents didn't care about your art or said you sucked and said grow up and get a real job or something like that. And maybe it's time to bring that passion back and see what you can do and give it a shot. Maybe alongside some of the other things you are doing to sustain yourself, even if it's time for that. Holy moly. So next thing they'd like to get to with all this, I feel like there's still more. So we're still on the volcano. It's just, I'm going to be very direct. Some of you are just afraid of the people around you, and they're just like, stop being afraid of the people around you, or feel the fear and do it anyway. Like, do what you need to do what you're going to do, be yourself. Move towards what you need to move towards. It's time. And you know, the example also comes to me where some of you, it might be about spirituality. Like some people are just really afraid to put themselves online or post. Some people are really afraid of putting themselves out there as, openly spiritual. I will say more and more people are accepting of it, and more and more people are realizing it's a thing as more and more people in their lives awaken to it, or they themselves awaken to it. But don't be afraid to go in the direction you need to go, please. So next thing to show me is a whale. And they're giving me the phrase like having a whale of a time. And in this intuitive visual, this whale is kind of up at the surface of the ocean. He's chugging some air, which is a great phrase. But let me see what's going on with this whale. So, you know how whales leap up out of the water and then they fall and they create a big wave, a big splash. Like there are big things coming into your world now or in the future, very soon in the future, I would say, maybe even the next week or two, maybe a bit further out, but what I'm hearing is next week or two as well, that are going to make a big change or cause things to rearrange. If you think of water displacement, like if you added like a gigantic fish to your bathtub, then the water would be displaced and it would have to move around and change, and you might not have as much room for your rubber duckies or something like that. Weird example, but like it might cause some things to be displaced, but it's the exact direction things need to go, at least after everything settles down, or it's going to cause things to rearrange. It could be multiple things as well. Like it could be 2 or 3 whales that flop into your existence. They're showing this whale like flying into this water and like poof. And it causes things to rearrange. And you kind of have to heed that. You have to rearrange with it. You have to move with that to ensure you have space for yourself, is something I'm hearing, which is weird. But it rearranges things perfectly if you move with that energy. And I feel like you need to be open to allow that is kind of what I'm hearing, and be open to new things coming in that are big, and making space for that when it happens. If it's something you can't avoid, could be a positive big thing too. And, you know, sometimes the positive big things come in and then we're like, oh, what do I do with this? But, you know, that relationship shows up and we're like, oh, what do I do now that I actually have love? And then, I don't know, then it can be a whole another slew of, it doesn't have to be, but it can be healing other things or working through other things that come up, you know, when you're in the relationship that you've been pining for, if that was you that was pining for it and things like that. So just know things are going to be displaced, but things are going to be good as well. Next thing they're showing me is ice. Like there's this iceberg, and you know they love the Titanic intuitive visual. Sorry, they're correcting me a little bit. They're like, we don't love it. It's just the message. So, okay. They're showing me the Titanic. There's icebergs around all these whales and things right now. The other thing that's flashing in is Thomas the Tank Engine, which I was very much into as a probably like 2, 3 to 7 or 8 year old, or however long I was into that. And I loved the burrito trains, if you remember those or know what those are. To me, usually when Thomas the Tank Engine shows up, it is about something to do with the inner child. We'll get to that, but let me see what is going on regarding the rest of what was showing up here. Let's see. So Titanic. So just realize that if things are sinking in your life, they are meant to sink. So if something sinks, you lose something, you have to walk away from something, it's meant to go, it's okay, it'll come back around. As people say, it comes back around in a new form. I've seen it happen. I know it's the way it goes. The weird message I'm hearing, maybe to frame it, is like you're not losing anything, you're changing things. So maybe you're not, if you feel like you're losing love, you're not losing love, you're waiting for love in a new form, is like a way you could maybe frame it to help you out right now. But anything that's sinking right now is meant to go, and it's like okay, and things will be rearranged accordingly. You'll get new things, maybe even right away, at least some of you. So just let it go is what I'm hearing. And trust that the right thing will come in. And, you know, again, some of the best things have come in for people after they've lost something. Like they lost that job, start a business takes off, you know, lost that career, have this other amazing thing that comes in that replaces it, and it's their like dream career or dream whatever. Lose a relationship, then the love of their life shows up like next year or maybe even sooner. So it's not to be judged, it's to be accepted, and just await the return of that energy in a higher evolved form, of course, as a reminder. The other thing with all that showing up is you might be afraid to lose things because of your childhood, some of you, or you're healing certain childhood things through losing certain things, or maybe even walking away from certain things and demanding better for yourself. There's like a couple different stories and things playing out here as messages, but just go with what rings true for you. Yeah, they're kind of also explaining it like there's a lot of inner child healing happening right now, or childhood healing, and it's going to shake things up potentially, as you may have noticed, but it's going to lead to good things overall in the end. So don't be too afraid is what I'd say as well with all that. I will also clarify with the Titanic thing, like your whole entire life overall is not going to sink. I feel like this is more just about particular areas for you. And they're just really clarifying, again, if you need me to say it, like, it's okay, like better is going to come in. So let's move on. So boulders have been showing up today. Boulder is showing up for you. Boulders are showing up for you again. So what's up with this boulder here? So if you are familiar with, oh my gosh, just plain old rocks. Because there's like crystals that you would like buy in a shop or online, and those are great and potent. And I'm not denigrating those at all because I love crystals. I've worked with crystals a ton. They really, really help out and can help out and do powerful work. At the same time, let's not neglect the power and wisdom found in a regular stone. And if you think of like a boulder and like how huge that is and how long it's been around or how long it's kind of sat in a certain location, and what I'm hearing to explain it is not my typical lingo, but like gathered wisdom as that boulder. Like there's a lot of powerful information you could receive, a lot of things you could learn energetically, a lot of energies that would help you that might be neglected by some people where there's like, oh, it's just a boulder. And one of your jobs right now could be to see where the extraordinary is in the ordinary and see spirits work in the ordinary and see how things are connected through that. Could be like through signs and synchronicities as well. Like maybe to someone else, like a bird flying past them is just a bird flying past them. But to you, it's just like that was an answer to a question you had that you were just thinking about. Like maybe you're thinking like, oh, should I stay or should I go? And then all of a sudden you see a bird fly away off into the sunset. You're like, oh, that bird left. Oh, yeah. And you can kind of feel the energy of it. Like, you know, it's a sign or synchronicity, or you see a sign or synchronicity and it seems pretty plain or ordinary, but something sticks out to you about the energy or about it. You're like, why am I so stuck on this log or something? And then like you get a reading, or maybe you're watching something like this and there's a synchronicity with a message that has to do with like that log or something you see. That's really imperative. So pay attention because there is extraordinary in the ordinary. And much like you could do a lot of work potentially with just like a quote unquote normal plain rock or boulder, you're going to be getting a lot out of ordinary experiences if you pay attention that has the extraordinary in it. And it's like grounding spirit more in the physical for you is something I'm hearing, or working more with spirit in your physical life as well is what I'm hearing. Interesting message, but that's cool. There is a quick reminder as well, like you're not a robot, so don't treat yourself like a robot in the work you're doing or anything else you're doing. Like it's definitely important you're taking care of yourself. I don't know why I'm hearing bathing regularly, and I'm not judging you if you don't bathe regularly. It's fine. Just take care of yourself in general. That's like in the energy right now is like important for people. It's in the energy is important for you. And sometimes just taking care of yourself is all you need to do to turn your life around. If like nothing's working, it's like, oh, how am I feeding myself? Both informationally, spiritually, food-wise, schedule-wise, etc. Routine-wise. How am I taking care of myself? And directing some loving attention towards taking care of you and, soothing your wounds, healing where you need to heal, looking at what you need. I feel like that could really turn things around for you. Because a lot of things in your life are based off of you right now, is what I'm hearing, if that makes any sense. And taking care of you is going to change everything. It's like if you change this, you're changing everything outside of you as well. So, and again, that kind of has to do with like the extraordinary in the ordinary, where ordinary actions, what's the best way to say this? Ordinary actions, if done with the right intention, can have extraordinary consequences if you're paying attention and working with spirit on all of that. And you don't have to like beat up on yourself and be like, oh, I cut that banana wrong. It's not that. It's excuse me. It could be things like the way you speak to people, the way you show up for yourself, the way you're seeing how all things are connected and tweaking the right things in your life through that to create different results, and not overthinking that and like freaking out, but taking it at the right pace for you, just kind of starting to slowly let it dawn on you what impacts your actions are having. So, and what impacts you are having through any other media or area. So you get it, I'd say. Next thing showing up is a zebra. The zebra's wearing like a circlet with like a ruby shaped like a like a 4-pointed star or diamonds on the like circlets. And the zebra, once again, is giving this message like it's time to be you. You can't hide who you are anymore. And even if you do, that's going to crumble. Interesting message. Whenever I get that message like XYZ or it's going to crumble, I've definitely watched that happen, like for myself, perhaps for other people as well. So, and it's not necessarily a bad thing for your scenario. I don't think it's bad at all. For me, what happened one time was I was at this crux period where I was doing a lot of one-on-one readings and I was working full time, like a night shift position at a grocery store at Whole Foods. And I got to this point where I was like, I kind of replaced my income, but it's like, is this going to be consistent doing the readings? Is this going to like work well for me? Am I going to be able to sustain it? Like, what do I do? Do I stay? Do I keep doing both? Do I quit Whole Foods? And at one point I channeled on it and my guys were like, you're going to have to choose one or they both will start to crumble. And what I noticed all of a sudden was like, I was just exhausted from working full time and then doing a bunch of readings. And then like I'd like oversleep my alarm and then I'd be like late for work. And that would be like, it'd start to become a problem. Or then I'd be exhausted and then I'd like, I think the worst it came to was I slept through a reading I was supposed to do that had been like scheduled. I was like, oh my God, that is like not exactly the professionality I was aiming for. So I had to choose one and I chose readings. What that could mean more for you, it doesn't mean like, oh, your life's going to crumble if you're not being you. It could be more like maybe you're masking who you are spiritually for certain people in your life where you don't actually need to. And people just start to see through it, could be more what that means. Or it's like, maybe you're trying to be normal and like drink a beer or something. And then all of a sudden beer just really doesn't work for you anymore. Like your body's too sensitive. It's not happening. It's like, okay, I've got to honor myself and what my body's telling me, what spirit's telling me. I need to go a different direction. I can't just do what everyone else is doing because it seems to be working for them. And it might not be as well as they present, by the way. Good, but if you need to go a different direction, you have to trust that. And that was kind of a weird example, but maybe you need to be a creative person and stop pretending you're like a numbers person, for example. And maybe you can do both. I never want to limit you, but maybe you're just trying to be something you're not to fit a certain image or because you believe you need to be that way to be successful at something. And it's just not true. And you can be fully yourself and be good at business, or fully yourself and be both good at business and being creative, and things like that. So it's more like stop fooling yourself in some ways and stop thinking people aren't going to see through it. It's like, it's okay to be you. And another example could be someone who's trying to present a certain way to attract a partner, like whether it's, whatever gender you're attracted to or trying to bring in and trying to like act a certain way, present a certain way. I don't know, for guys who are more straight leaning, it could be more like being alpha and like fight everybody or like, but then they like, that's not genuinely them. And there's actually something, maybe that framework's totally bust and bum in the first place. And like trying to squeeze into it is just completely not serving anyone in the first place necessarily. Because what if you can be above and beyond that and something better than a quote unquote alpha, and you can manifest that and step into that and ask, what would that be like? What else is possible than this framework I was sold that doesn't feel totally true to me and is not spacious enough for my being? That's part of what I'm talking about as well. So blue kyanite is also showing up for this reading. I have one here and it caught my eye and they're telling me to talk about it. Blue kyanite can talk about a number of things. One of them is alignment, like alignment of the chakra system. It is one of the crystals that's purported to be clear 24/7 or like clean and clear energetically 24/7. That some of you might find that debatable, but I would rather just create whatever's the highest good for me to create regarding that. That's within my power to create or work with source on creating the highest and best. But the message for you regarding what this blue kyanite is representing is coming into alignment, and honoring your true self is a way to come into alignment with what you're meant to receive and what's for you. The more you're doing that, the better you'll be, I feel, for sure. And again, like we talked about in the beginning of the reading, to maybe tie some of it together, that might entail walking away from certain things that maybe you got into for a reason that wasn't the best. And that happens. Or maybe it's walking away from things you know aren't for you any longer, but that brings you into alignment for what is for you. So keep that in mind. The last thing they're showing me is like tiger's eye crystal and a lightning strike. You are very divinely protected right now from danger, from the wrong paths. They're showing like a baby who's like crying while a thunderstorm's going outside, and then spirit or God is like cradling this baby. He's like, hey, I got you. It's almost like a mother actually, like, hey, I got you, baby. It's okay. And that's like you right now is you might be afraid, but you're safe perhaps in the arms of the divine, or safe in the way you're held by the divine, even if you don't think so, or your physical reality doesn't seem like that. Like things will really improve for you and you're safe. For some of you, it might just be waiting out the storm right now, and trusting yourself through it and trusting spirit through it. So, and the other thing is like danger will fall away. So if you feel like you've been in danger a lot recently, for whatever reason, I feel like that's going to fall away. I don't feel like any of you really are. I'm missing a sign, but that's okay. But if you need to hear this, I don't get that. I'm getting something like there's not going to be a lot of danger in your path if you keep going. I don't know who needs to hear that, but that's another message as well. So I hope that helped and resonated. Whatever was for you, it's good. And we'll move on to the water signs in just a second. If I can find... Oh, I got it right here on my desk. Ooh. Oop. Libra Moon was loving this. Perfect, CJ. You're welcome, Tanya Jade. You are welcome, Calm Caroline. Calm Caroline. You're welcome, White Butterfly. Spot on, champ. Thank you, King. Thank you, Moon, and you are welcome. Of course, you're welcome. Okay, so I know we are cruising right through this. Dahlia Lama says, I feel like that you feel like a zombie in your job, you want to quit, but your business never picked up. And what I'm hearing is like, that's okay. There will be other opportunities. Keep an eye peeled, even for like another job or other industries. There are other opportunities coming, is what I'm getting. So. You're welcome, Amanda, and I appreciate you letting me know too. So glad I caught you live. I was doing school stuff all day. Thank you, Rachel. I am glad you are here as well. So maybe this later start time worked out today for everybody. For whatever reason, subject to change, you said you are feeling blind for a direction forward, not sure what's next for you. What I was hearing is like, that's okay right now. Like, don't force it. Like it will come. And a lot of the times when I have felt like that in the past, it just wasn't the right time to move forward, and other important things were happening internally, energetically, or behind the scenes in development to get me there at the right time. So in some ways, what I'm hearing is like, trust that. Like I would trust that a little bit and not beat up on yourself too much about that. And that goes for everyone else who feels that same way, by the way. Might be why they had me answer that one. Lady Starlight 3 asks, is it possible to hear a recently deceased loved ones talking to you and your head? I do that. I'm getting not to do that here right now. I've in the past typically kept some of the more mediumship side of things a little bit more under wraps. as far as my public work, it's perhaps not the direction I feel called right now. If it ramps up and they're like, no, you need to do this, and that's your path forward or part of it, then I'll heed that if it's right for me. I definitely can, but that's not what I'm doing right now, I guess, if that makes sense. Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Is it really her talking to me? I think I can hear her. What I'm hearing is like, yeah, but you need to stay with it a bit longer and let it open up more for sure. Like there are going to be a lot of experiences you question, like perhaps in the next year, but in the next year you won't, is what I'm hearing. It'll become more a part of how you operate. And definitely try not to second guess it too much. You're definitely going to get the clarity you need, is something I'm hearing. And I feel like it's legit, but be patient with it. So sorry for misunderstanding your question as well. I'll answer this. I know this accidentally turned into personal reading land, so I won't do it too much longer. I'm just going to switch to the water signs in a second. But I was hearing for TJ, you said you feel insecure about your job company. Do you just keep pushing at the same company? I was hearing something like yes, but potentially start looking as well. Like what I exactly heard was like yes, but start looking. If that is something that is feasible for you in your situation, like I would keep pushing, and at the same time perhaps consider looking at other things at the same time. And for you, I feel like the right thing's going to fall in your lap as long as you're putting yourself out there potentially for new jobs or situations. But you might have to try a little bit. Thank you, Spence. That means a lot. We just finished Air Ruth. I'm sorry if you missed it. I will, of course, repost these on YouTube. And if anyone's like, how do I get to this dude's YouTube? Link in my bio is one way. And I think there's like another thing you can click on that clicks to some of my other social media as well. So those would be ways to get to it. For anyone else listening that is like wondering how to get to that. So hope that was helpful, TJ, and made sense to you, of course. Honestly, I'm not too worried about you because they're like, he's on the right track and he'll be fine. So assuming sorry, not to assume gender, but you'll be fine. Keisha asks, is this the new start time evening-ish? I'm not 100% sure yet. I'm leaning towards it. I like this time. It's working for me. I'll definitely stay with it and keep you guys updated. If this is working better for people than the 3 p.m. time. Because I'm not to judge or project on the 3 p.m. time. I sometimes wonder, like, is it an awkward time for people to just kind of, show up at 3 p.m. in the middle of their Sunday afternoon to show up for the lives. So I'm sitting with it, and we'll see what shows up. But I'm not 100% sold on it yet. That makes sense, Becca. I'll definitely sit with that and consider it. I miss mornings. I hear you, Marina. Mornings have not been a consistently good time for me to show up for these with the way my sleep and work schedule has been recently. So I just needed to watch out for that. I've definitely watched during work in between sessions. Well, hey, that's cool. I appreciate that. You would feel called to do that. It's 4:28 here right now. Yeah, and I know for people not in North or South America, the time zone is quite a different story. So hopefully it's working out for you guys as well. So they're telling me to start the water signs readings. They are recommending it. So if you are a water sign, Sun, Moon, or Rising, this is going to be for you when you see it. And I'm going to be flowing with the channeled messages flowing for you from my spirit guides, the angels, and source coming through for you, bring, what do you need to hear for your highest good? What's going to help you out for your highest good? what would Spirit like to say? And I'll be working with my intuition for the highest good regarding all this as well. So let's start your reading. I feel like I've said this to you last week, but there are a lot of endings coming in. Like you've hit a lot of ending points. There are a lot of things that might be meant to fall away from your world right now. And this can be I feel like it's meant to be positive, but it could be a very positive message for you where it's just like, man, I'm so tired of this track I've been on. I'm so ready for this phase to end. And then it's just like over. It reminds me of graduating high school. Personally, I thought it was so weird because it would be like, oh, here's like for years, like the pattern, like for grade school leading into high school, is just like, you go to school, you do the tests, you do the homework or whatever. And the people are just pushing through. And it was like, almost like, it's not like I felt like we hit a solid ending point. It just kind of felt like we're in this cycle, we're in this process, and it's done now. And you're graduated. I'm like, It was just a very, very surreal experience for me when I was that age. And you might feel like that right now, or you might have endings coming in that feel surreal, even if it's like a positive ending, like, oh, I'm so glad that's over, but I feel so weird or something like that. Maybe not all of you. For others of you, there are just a lot of endings that are meant to come in right now, a lot of finish lines crossed, and you don't see the new yet, or all of the new. And like maybe you have some inklings, or you have some directions, and that's all well and good. Like do what you're called to do, but there's like so much new for you you don't see yet that's birthing and coming in. Or kind of like maybe you don't like see the baby before the baby gets birthed. Like you see signs of the baby, like there's the pregnant mother and the usually some type of bulging belly kind of thing going on, and all that, but you don't necessarily physically see the baby until the baby's there. And you also might have a lot of surprise manifestations on that note in this next period here, where it's like, like it reminds me of Jack in the Box. If you watch the movie Elf, when he's testing the Jack in the Box at the beginning, where I personally love that movie, but he's like testing the Jack in the Box. He's like da 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 da, and he, like every time it like pops in, I'm like but almost they're showing it to me like that. Like they're showing that as like an example to kind of explain it, or they're having a little bit of fun with it as well as literally giving you an example, like it's like pop-up manifestations where you're like manifesting this thing, you're manifesting this thing, maybe you're doing the things that you need to do show up, and it's like it like just shows up, which is cool. I'd run with that, but just because you don't see all the new coming in doesn't mean it's not coming in. And endings are not the end of life, it's just the start of a new phase. So like trust the endings and maybe even run towards them is what I'd say, and embrace them, because it's really a beautiful time if you allow it to happen and let it flow with all of that here. And they're showing this example again of like someone who is like running this race, but they don't, like they get to the finish line and they start to slow down and like walk because they don't want the race to end. Like maybe it's something they really enjoyed, but they do have to get back to the rest of their life. In this example, following the race, they need to get to the other things they enjoy. If they like, all they did was like run the race and they just neglected all other parts of their life, like one, they'd probably like starve to death because you can't just run and not eat for, ever. And two other areas of their life might get neglected. They might feel a bit stagnant. So let things end is what I'm getting regarding whatever is ending. And trust that the next race you enjoy will come at the right time. So, okay, it's been a very volcano day for the readings, like another volcano showing up for you. Again, this time it's different. Like this volcano is like being ripped open, like with lava spewing forth. It's like it's been containing itself for so long, or something has been waiting and gestating to be born for so long that it's just like, I'm coming out. It just like rips this volcano open to be born. There's a giant volcano baby, I guess, in this volcano, but of course it's a metaphor, but just be prepared for your reality to change, and maybe even for things to violently shift, even if it's positive. Maybe even violently shift for the better, just because of the way things need to change and the way Spirit has been gestating change for you. Spirit didn't want things to come in until it was ready and it was time and you were ready. And sometimes things come in at like the last possible moment, like spirit comes in and saves the day, is like an example. Not that it has to be about saving the day, but it's for some reason they're bringing this in. Like, it reminds me of a story where one time I was leaving a job and I was moving across the country, and I just kind of already decided that I was doing this. I'd like broken up with someone, so I was like, okay, we're doing this, and I was trying to transition in the same company, but the jobs were a little bit sparse because it was during the beginnings of COVID area, like 2019, early 2020. And I ended up like applying for a position. This is when I got the nighttime job, by the way. I was applying for the nighttime position because it was just something that was available near where I was going to be living. And I didn't hear back from them. I didn't hear back from them. I didn't hear back from them. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll have to take like a pay cut, work somewhere else, and just see what I can find at a different job. And we'll just see what happens. And on the last day I was at this work at my old position, it was like I would have no real reason to check my email on that last day, just with the nature of the job, just because I wasn't really potentially going to be part of the company anymore. There wasn't anything imperative I probably needed to see on there. But on like a whim, I was just like, oh, what the heck, I'll just check. And so I open it, and that very day, just like hours before that, the boss for the next job, like emailed me like, hey, I saw you applied for this position. I wanted to see if you wanted to chat sometime about it. This afternoon I'll be in like from this time to this time, which was like the time I was there, like at checking my email. And so like literally that was one of the last possible times I could have gotten that email and seen it and like got that position and like kept my pay in an okay place. Well, I mean, there might've been other opportunities at that point, but at least as far as what was readily available seemingly at that time. And so it was like at the last possible second, just on a whim, checking my email. And then I was able to talk to that person and secure that position, and or at least secure interviews for that position, then get that position. So for anyone who needs to hear that, like if you've been like being told like, oh, Spirit's going to save the day, Spirit's going to save the day, or something like that, and you're like, you're getting a little bit antsy or you're not sure about it, like it could just be something that comes in like last second. And I know that's a bit harrowing as a message, if I'm saying that word right, but just don't give up is what I'm trying to say. Like, they're kind of a different spin, but sometimes us not giving up and maybe doing the last ditch thing because we're like, oh, I wonder if, or we feel called to it, or it's like we're compelled to. It's like that can be something that helps us. So don't just like give up on something. But anyways, all that I'm trying to say is like maybe you've been trying to manifest something and it's like it seems like the last possible instant this thing could show up, and then it does, like miraculously and violently and maybe all of a sudden. So just don't give up on certain things is something I'm hearing that you feel called to not give up on, or you feel like you really need to like maybe catch a break or something like that. So we're going to keep going with this reading here. The other thing with this volcano about, besides things like violently birthing, possibly at like the last second, if that even makes sense, though if that doesn't pertain, then, it'll just birth at the right times and ways. What's next here? The next thing that's showing up in my intuitive visuals is if you've ever heard of like twistedsage.com, they make these really interesting energy tools. Like a lot of it's like copper, but it's like they use these like copper rings or different things to like anchor etheric templates, is I think the way they would phrase it, that like perpetually like do energy work, or you can work with them as energy work tools, and they do really good stuff. Typically, in my understanding. They're like, my spirit guides are like, no, they help a lot. So, okay. And they were showing me one specific tool of theirs called, I think they named it the Ascension Grid Pyramid. And they had this big contraption they made with all these different energy tools that they, create called the Ascension Chamber or Ascension Pyramid. And it's supposed to bring ascension energies, help people ascend, and do a bunch of other stuff that is cool. as well. And I'm really generalizing the explanation. You probably have to look at their website to get a more in-depth description from them on it, as far as what they see it doing. As far as why that is showing up right now, I feel like the message I'm getting is a lot of the manifestations that are coming in for you soon or even now are because you have ascended more, at least, or potentially have like been doing the work on yourself, whether that's what you realized you were doing or not, with some of the circumstances or things you were doing. So pat yourself on the back. It's like you've earned these manifestations or like the good coming your way. It's not like it's, because I really feel like spirit can just gift and give to us too. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that necessarily. But in this circumstance, what I'm being guided to say for you is it's not just like spirit's giving you this and you don't deserve it. And, bow down to God, you unworthy peasant kind of thing. It's more like you earn this and you should pat yourself on the back, and it's like you're worthy of receiving this. So it's more about self-image, honestly, and not seeing yourself as unworthy when you really, truly are, is what I say. Like you are deserving. Even if you're rewarded in another area compared to an area you've put effort into. So if you've been doing a lot of work, for example, I'm not saying you do this, but maybe you've been putting a lot of money or time and effort in volunteering or helping out homeless people or something like that. It's like you probably can't always expect the homeless to come back and be like, here's $10 million for all your efforts. But spirit, the universe, can repay your efforts or bring you abundance or whatever in different forms from different people. So sometimes if you'd like more abundance, it can be a good idea to give in a way you feel called to authentically give, or if you're divinely guided to give in a certain way, that can be a great idea. Even if it's like online and you're guided to help people online. I'm not saying the only reason I'm showing up here is just so I can receive abundance. Like, there's like, I'm genuinely guided and, compelled in instances and called to do it too. But something to consider. Like there's other ways abundance can find you if you're not getting back from a certain area. I feel like these messages have been really like flowy. I feel like there's like, I'm hitting a message, then hitting like a message inside the message. So hopefully this is all working for you really well, the way this is all working out. But let's see what's coming up next for you guys here. A lot of manifestations coming in. Let's move on here. They're showing me this toy car, like a Matchbox car or like Hot Wheels or something like a die cast like model of a car. There is a quick message of perhaps in the past, maybe even recently, like, and this isn't to say bigger things aren't coming for you right now. You might have been receiving a lot of blessings or things from the universe, but they've seemed like a lot smaller. It's like they're showing like these like toy cars being delivered to you on like this conveyor belt, like from spirit. And it's just like they keep falling off this conveyor belt and you're just like, what am I, like, why am I just getting these toy cars when I'm asking for this? But it's like these toy cars that you collect add up to something really valuable. And like, for example, in this example, maybe you'd be able to like sell all those toy cars because maybe you don't care about them in this example. And then you have like plenty of money for like a down payment on a house. Or maybe you like gather up all these things and you're able to do something with it somehow that's really valuable to you. And it's kind of this message about small blessings really adding up, or like small miracles compounding into big miracles. Maybe, I don't know if small wins compounding into big wins is the exact message. I don't feel like it is, but maybe that applies to you somehow in a different way. The message I was hearing is like not to discount your blessings, like even the small ones, because you never know how it's going to add up or how there might be a twist at the end that makes it all worthwhile. Even if you didn't think you were getting what you wanted right away, because maybe what's an example here? Here's a weird example, but maybe at the end, like all these cars combine to make a real car, or maybe at the end, like a real car comes out this conveyor belt right when you need one, or, something like that. Or there's something about small blessings compelling into big blessings and not neglecting the small blessings, but maybe even nurturing them and growing them and honoring them and trusting you will get what you deserve is something I'm hearing as well. And I'm meant that in a positive way. But no, you do know. So let's move on here. So our next two spirit animals showing up, very common friends here that show up for these readings, elephants, and they really don't like when I preface it that way. So I'm going to stop saying that. So I'm going to try to stop saying that. But elephant and giraffe spirit animals showing up here. There's also like a liger showing up here. Like a lot of spirit animals, not that elephant and giraffe always have to do with transformation, but a lot of the spirit animals showing up right now have to do with transformation in some ways, something I'm getting. And that's like a very important energy right now for the world. But you might also be at this like core of transformation right now where it's like, and not to put this on you, and please let me explain it. It's like you might be transforming, but you're also transforming for other people. And it's not this thing of like you took on all these people's transformation and now you're transforming for them. It's more about how your transformation changes the world and becomes a recipe for other people to transform and allows you to have the impact you came here to have. So it could be like you're transforming, but then you impact a lot of people after that transformation. It's a really positive thing. So I'd really honor that and not get annoyed with transformation, but honor that process if you feel like that's something that keeps coming up for you. With the spirit animals, though, kind of a weird message, but in this instance, the spirit animals are all conspiring to get you to the next level for you. Because it's like elephant is removing obstacles and giraffe is like lifting you up so you can see clearly. And then like other, spirit animals are working on your behalf and like really working as a team to help you out here. So you have a lot of help on the other side is one of the messages. And even if you feel a bit lonely right now in some areas, and it could even be like, oh, no one else around me believes what I believe. And maybe it's like, oh, I'll have this one person in my life, but that's it right now. It's like, you're just transforming for the people you're meant to meet is something I'm getting. And that's already underway, or you're already there, like you went through that. So you're kind of like in between people if you feel alone right now. And that's okay. Like at the right time, the people come in, and that could even be soon, for a lot of you, whether that's romantic or just friendship or business wise, or heck, it could be clients, anything like that. So you're just like in between phases of people is what I'm getting for you right now regarding all of that. And Spirit has it covered. And you're actually not alone as everybody, says. Like spiritually, how you have spirit guides, and I guess a whole slew of spirit animals helping you right now could be an important energy, angels, all that jazz for the highest good. Anything else with all that? Just know you're not alone in life is what I'm hearing. Another message is that there is a lot of complexity simplifying for you. So where things have been complex, you're going to see it clearly and like cut right to the heart of things instead of going through an entire maze of like ideas and thoughts and like, what if this, what if that? You're just going to see the center of the maze and bust through the walls like that Juggernaut character on X-Men, I guess, and get to the heart of the thing or the issue, or like find a simpler path for like business solutions or for friendships, or maybe like your relationships are simplifying instead of having like complex fights. You kind of see like, oh, I see what's going on. I just need to move this way and things will even out. Or maybe you've created a lot of complex habits and like Spirit kind of needs it to like be broken down to get to you a bit more between your habits, or so that you can be a bit more flexible is like a weird example I'm hearing for some of you. So in some way, shape, or form, the complex is becoming simple, and it's a really big boon, and it streamlines a lot of things, and it's potentially going to lead to success in some area or a lot of areas in some way, shape, or form for you, which is really cool here. It could even be like simplifying your ideas. And like you might have an idea where it's just like, oh, my business has to do X, Y, Z. It's got to be like this, 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 and this. And I have to lead my potential clients through all these like windows and hoops and concepts to get them to do this thing. But then you're like, oh, wait, I just need to make this post and send this email or something like that. Or I just need to like simplify what I'm offering so it's easier for people to see what I'm doing and see if it's for them or not and buy into it, the right people. I do feel like this is about relationships for a lot of you, though, like complex relationships or like dynamics that get really laid out for you very plainly, or directions in life even. So they are done, or we're close to done here. Anything else that would be for that's going to come through for you right now? I get you're on the right track, is what I'm hearing as well. This group is on the right track, and even if you don't feel like it, like the right track is like right there, like it's right in front of your eyes, and Spirit's going to show you that. So no worries, is what I'd say. So I hope that helped, resonated, whatever was for your highest good helped you out. I know sometimes I like grab things on my desk and I'm like moving around with it while I channel and facilitate the readings and being intuitive, but hopefully that's not too distraction for you when I do that. Hi, Maddie. So, I'm gonna drink some water. Gonna hang out for a teensy bit, and then Rachel Stewart, complexities will clarify. That could be a good way to put it. But I also feel like it's actually gonna be simplified too. Thank you, Bob. And you're right. As far as apologizing or not apologizing, regarding that at least. Lady Starlight, could the complex relationship be someone passing? It could be. Totally, Spence. Yeah. The word I heard when I read what you said with the big push is like totally, but I'm so glad to hear it. That means a lot, Bob. Thank you very much. Thanks, Lil Mandy Dandy. I appreciate that. You're welcome, Dalai Lama. So we're going to start the full, I'm going to drink more water so my voice doesn't like crack, but we're going to start the full channel mode message in a second. A lot of you are probably familiar with that, but for anyone new, you'll understand as I get going. But I channel my spirit guides directly, the angels and source directly as well, kind of more as a group, I guess you could say. And they just bring through a message for you. And along with that message comes a vibration, a frequency, and like an energetic transmission. It flows from source and works only for the highest good. And that can lead to shifts and changes for you energetically, for you, for your life. It could lead just shift and changes to you in your life. Do work that's for your highest good. It can bring upgrades. And I don't want to limit it because it can do a lot. So I think that's a good starting place for saying what it does. It only works for the highest good, of course. And then it can also really open your intuition more as well. And if you're meant to channel, it can open your channeling as well. Like some of you might start to, if you don't already channel, get messages as I channel and things like that. Does your symbol mean anything in particular? Yeah, when I received it or channeled it through, they gave it to me as an energy healing symbol. They've made some additions to it I don't have in the icon right now. But that's something they gave to me a few years back as an energy healing symbol. So I just slap it on my, social media accounts and websites in some ways as a branding symbol, but also just to let it do whatever good would be for that. It's good for it to do, while it's out there. So, hey, Heidi. Ooh, that's an interesting question. We'll answer this before I channel. You're asking, how important do you feel like it is to identify who exactly your guides are? What I'm hearing to say is not very, depending on where you're at. Like you can go pretty far just knowing the energies of your spirit guides and knowing what it's like hearing them without having, for example, like a bunch of names for each and every one. Nothing wrong if you do, by the way, either. But you can just be like, I know I'm working with the angels and they don't always give me names, but the thing is they don't exactly have names up there. Like when I got the name for my guides that they gave me, they were just like, when I asked about that, they're like, we don't have names up there. So like, that. I'm like, okay. And then they kind of came back and gave me one anyways, maybe just to have, or maybe to placate my if I'm saying that word right, my human mind, if that makes sense. And I remember like some people earlier on in my journey kind of said it was more of a big deal for me to know the names of my guides and things like that, but I'm just getting no, like it just didn't resonate for me as the truth at that time. And yeah, I could talk to each spirit. I don't know. Usually for me, it just kind of, I don't want to like pigeonhole it, but shows up as like, these are my spirit guides. Like I know what they sound like. Sometimes they show up with different sounds as their like voices, for example. And I know how to distinguish it, and I know the energy of them, and the angels and all that stuff. So I'm not too worried, and I know the results I get with it as well. So I hope, to answer your question, to make sure I'm answering you and like what you were actually asking, though, anything I need to say in specific to that here. I feel like that was pretty good, but I hope that answered what you were asking about. Heidi says, yeah, I've heard that warning too, like know who it is before we channel. Here's what I'm hearing to kind of talk about that is like, usually that doesn't matter. That could matter to someone who is at like a lower vibration or is really in that fear. But in most instances, that's never going to be something to worry about. Like for everybody here right now, that you'd be fine is what I'm hearing. There are people out there who also have a lot of fear around channeling that doesn't need to be there, is something I'm hearing. And as long as you are of a good enough vibration, you're going to be fine. Like you don't need to worry. And I know that might run contradictory or counter to what some people say, but I don't care. That's what I'm hearing to say, and that's more, I feel like, been my experience as well. And of course, like you can always, like if you are newer to channeling, you can always set your intention like, okay, I ask that I only channel what's of the true highest lights, highest infinite wisdom, highest infinite intelligence, that's for the highest good for me to channel, bringing through the highest and best fully accurate information that's for the highest good, or something like that. Like you can set the intention and trust that as well. So there's other ways to keep that in mind and approach that. Hi, Avidam. Good to see you. Okay, well, they would like to start speaking of channeling, they would like to start the full channel mode right now. The name that my spirit guides gave me was the Angelic Collective of Zorbital. I like to say I channel my spirit guides, the angels and source, to make it simpler, I guess you could say, so I don't have to explain like the name and but that's, I guess, a starting place for that. And maybe they'll tell you more about who they are, or energetically you can pick up on that. Cool. So I'm, just so you know what's going to happen, usually I do a little cough, they do a little laugh, and then they start talking. And so fully if that's good, let's see what comes through for you guys. Welcome to your channeled message today, whenever you are seeing this. This is about change and growth. For you have many change opportunities on the planet for all of you. You have many growth opportunities and have had growth opportunities on the planet for all of you. You will have opportunities for change coming in, drastic opportunities for change. Not all of them will be exactly what you desire, but they will lead to what you desire overall if you trust your gut, your intuition, and spirit's plan. For example, many of you think that change is just going to find you, and for many of you it will. However, in this period of time, choice is also rising. You could use the word and terminology free will. You are still working with spirit with this. This is not to say that people are just going to send everything off the rails and go crazy because of free will. There is still working with spirit. There is still divine guidance, divine orchestration, and spirit is all of it. So spirit is not just going to let things go off the rails forever. There is a plan in place. There are multiple tracks this plan could take in order to get to the end result, but it will get there. The first thing we'd like to let you know is that spirit has things under control. However, back to change. Right now it is about opportunity of change. What choices come your way to be made? What opportunities come your way for you to take a certain path, to move the energies in a certain direction? Where would you like to go, and what opportunities come your way to get you there? Whether they are self-started, whether there are hints and messages from the universe, whether directly through science, through synchronicities, through friends, through loved ones, through any other way you get messages for the highest good. What do you feel compelled to do? For spirit has infinite possibility and methodology and infinite ways it can speak to you and get you on the right track if you are willing to receive that. But now it is also about choosing your opportunity. It is about seeing the opportunity and choosing it to get to the desired results. We say that because opportunity is here. The energy of opportunity is birthing for many, and it might not look how you expect. It doesn't have to be devastating or negative whatsoever. Let's say you would like to start a business. You say, Spirit, I would like to start a business that impacts the world for the highest good. Spirit says, yep, that lines up. We'll get you there. And all of a sudden you get the urge to look into how paper is made. And you realize how unsustainable certain practices may be in that industry or something similar. And all of a sudden you are meant to be an advocate for the earth and how paper is made through your new company. Well, that is your opportunity. You get to have an impact for the highest good through your paper opportunity, and that could fund a lot of other good things in the world, even if it is not directly what you thought it would be. That could help you start another business or fund a healing center that a friend would like to start. But you have to see the opportunity for what it is, or be willing to go down a route that's unexpected. Because that paper company that you could then start, after seeing these things and realizing there's a better way, could be your path, or could lead you to your path. That is what we mean by opportunity. Finding what spirit is doing through the things that are showing up. Asking for the opportunities in all of it. Maybe you wanted to start a motorcycle company, you started a paper company instead. But that did exactly what you wanted it to do. That is what we mean. So where is opportunity showing up for you that you don't see it right now? That could lead you exactly to where you want to go. We just ask you to reflect, keep an eye open in the future for that, because that energy is rising. You are meant to manifest new. You are meant to head to the new. You are birthing the new. You are the new. So many see the new as something separate from themselves. But people are birthing the new every day, every moment of every day. They are bringing the new through them and into the world, or are becoming the new that then births the new outside of them as an expression and as a manifestation of the new they are becoming. So how can you become new? How are you becoming new? And if you get an intuitive message when we ask those questions, great. Run with it, or at least sit with it, digest it, see what you feel called to do as you sit with it. If you don't, just let that question float through energetically. Get an energy from it. See what seeds it might create or plant in the soil for you, metaphorically. Because this message is about planting seeds. This message is about getting you to see the opportunities, but it's also about getting you to be who you're meant to be. Seeing the opportunity for that. And it is planting the seeds of the future. If you were here last week, you will know we did that last week as well, because it is a potent theme. The more you are creating the new and planting seeds in 2024 and beyond, the better, because the soil is fertile. The soil in your lives is fertile, both for you and for the world. Go within in 2024. Or whatever year you are in when you find this, go within. We advise you to schedule time to go within. Because there's a lot that is germinating within you. Speaking of seeds. Again, a lot that wants to birth through you. Going within is going to allow you to know what that is. You can literally schedule an hour a week to go within, to see what Spirit wants to say, to see what is there, to see what your soul wants to say, and to allow the seeds that you have been planting to germinate. Your soul desires to give to you in 2024. Your soul desires to give to you now. And going within, as trite as that might sound, in today's day and age, like an Instagram quote, go within. It sounds all fluffy and cute, but we mean it. Sometimes you need to see the truth within the fluffy and cute, or the trite. You still need that kernel of truth in the saying, even if it gets beat to a pulp by the rest of society, by spiritual gurus or spiritual sounding gurus. Depending on which term better fits the person posting. Not to call anyone out. But we say go within because it is actually important, whether that's journaling, meditating, or just taking time in nature or in stillness to let things germinate. As a reminder, the new energies birth when you are still, at least within you. They can birth in action and they will birth in action as well. But regarding this message, to really hammer it in, you are birthing new energies as you are still. Because again, you are allowing Spirit to give to you. You are allowing your soul to give to you. And those higher energies are coming in. And if you do not let the water settle, how will you know what's in the water? So, what seeds would you like to plant for your life? What seed would you like to plant in you for who you will become And what actions can you take to make that a reality? Right now or soon? Because right now is the great time to take advantage of the fertile soil that you are and that you are in. As tumultuous as it may seem in the world, sometimes that is the opportunity as well. Opportunity for mastery, for growth, yes. But things become possible when things shift. Yes, things are always possible. It's infinite possibilities. But it is often in times of great change that new things become available more readily, new pathways, new inspirations, new ideas. If you are tired of change, we understand. But that does not make the change go away. So you might as well see the opportunity that the change is bringing you when it transpires. And ask for the best to happen regarding change. If you are in a change, you can say, Spirit, bring this in the highest and best directions. Grab this bull by the horns, steer it towards my dreams, steer it towards my highest and best reality, steer me towards my highest and best timeline. It already is moving in good directions, we would argue, from our perspective, because Spirit's plan is taking place in the world. As dark as it may seem on the world at times, underneath it, the light is birthing. Like seeds of light planted in manure. The darkness is crumbling to make way for the lights. And that is the shift you are seeing. As we have said, as many before us have said, in other channelings, intuitive messages, yada yada. So what opportunity is there for light in you and on the planets? Through all the chaos you see, what opportunity for peace is there, for truth is there? And plant those seeds. And if you don't know how to do that, just ask. Spirit, help me to plant seeds of peace. Spirit, help me to plant seeds of joy for myself and the world. Spirit, help me to plant seeds of you, of consciousness, of higher realities, everywhere I go. And if you intend it, so it can be. If you would like your presence to bring joy, ask that your presence brings joy. See what shows up. Look for the signs and synchronicities. Your friend may come up to you the next day, and they might just tell you, oh, I feel so happy when I'm around you. I just feel so much joy around you, emanating from you. I can't help but feel joy. You'll get the signs. You have to try. You have to ask at least. But then, what else can you be? If you become someone who brings joy in their presence, what else can you bring in your presence? By asking, by becoming, by receiving that. And that's an opportunity as well. This message right now. What would you like to be? Ask. We are leaving you there. We've said enough. You've got the energies you need. You are lightening up. You are becoming lighter. You are becoming more light. We are signing off for now. The Angelic Collective Absorbital and Source. Farewell for now. Ooh, lordy. Thank you very much, Lady Starlight. Thank you, guys. Prince Priestess. Prince Priestess is here for the Ulaude. Thank you very much, Moon. Thank you very much, Michelle. So good to see you. Thanks, Eight of Wands, for letting me know. Nice work. Thank you very much, Bob. Thanks, Cowtipa. I'm glad to hear it, Prince Priestess. And that's what matters, you know? I totally understand not everyone can always be here for the whole time, nor would I expect that or get mad if they couldn't, because, you know, channeling for 3 to 4 hours, though I so appreciate anyone who does, or, you know, whoever pops in whenever they do. I trust they get whatever they need to get when they get it, if that makes sense. But you guys are welcome. You're welcome, Cosmic Cat Art. Thank you, Prince Priestess. Ooh. Lady Starlight says, I was transported during that message. I've never had it feel like that. Yeah, that can be the channeled experience. I feel like that's important for your intuition as well. Not that you aren't already intuitive. Are you exhausted after this? If the lives extend too long, yes. I think that's just by nature of doing it for 4 hours. Sometimes after full channel mode and channeling, I feel energized. I think it depends on like the crowd as well, and kind of like where people are at and how much energy I needed to exert facilitating the channel. But sometimes I really feel rejuvenated having my spirit guides and source channel through me. Hard to explain, but it's like, even though I have a lot coming through me for you guys and whoever I'm channeling for, it can also rejuvenate me at the same time. Perhaps it's kind of like Reiki, if you've learned Reiki, where you facilitate a Reiki session. It's like, yes, you are, I guess you could say, holding that frequency, but you're facilitating that Reiki session, bringing that Reiki through you to the recipient. You're also receiving Reiki as you bring it through you and, you know, out your hands to the recipient as it's taught. Oh, thank you, Moon. Spence, I see your question. I'm so sorry. I'm getting not to get into it right now. Otherwise, I totally would. But I'm just. I do get that you'll get the answers, though. Like, those are coming. I feel like it's important you get them in a different way for whatever reason. And it's not a cop-out. That's just what I'm getting. So I'm not surprised. Okay, cool. Perfect. Oh, you're welcome, Prince Priestess. Thank you so much. Ooh. What is the significance of hawk as a spirit animal? It can be different for different people, and each person. Recommendation I'm getting is to Google it. Maybe look at the second or third link, or both. One thing it can definitely symbolize is going higher. What I'm getting right now is like hitting new planes of reality, but it's also like seeing clearly. If you think of like Hawkeye or, you know, Hawk's eyes, like what I'm also hearing for you, which I guess links into the channel that just came through, I believe, but like seeing opportunity, you know, seeing your, not prey, but for hawk could be prey, it could be opportunity, but seeing prey and like striking at the right time. I don't expect you to be pouncing on mice in fields anytime soon. Are some meanings. But for you, what I'm hearing is a lot of it, or one of the meanings at least, is going higher and hitting new frequency thresholds, and how that transforms things and how you'll be seeing more clearly soon. But there's more. So so we're kind of at a bit of a crux point here, because I'm a little bit torn on the Reiki infused guitar. I can just do it, for the 10 or so minutes, and it could just kind of round this experience out, and then we can kind of close out. So, Kanesha, I'm not a physical doctor, of course, legal disclaimer. But you're talking about something being wrong with, like, you seem like think something's wrong with, like, an energetic body. Like, are you okay? Again, yes, you're okay. There was something, like, maybe take a look at getting checked out physically, just in case, if you feel called, if it feels right to you. Don't, again, legal disclaimer, not a doctor, but I don't know if you feel called to seeing a chiropractor or anything like that, or whatever you feel called to do about that. But I do get you'll be okay. So that's good. And also things are evening out for you. And if you've experienced any loss recently, you're going to have a lot of replacements for that. It's something I'm hearing as well. In the future, at least. Whew. Okay. So we're going to jump into Reiki infused and energy healing infused guitar. I know I'm getting a lot of, and nothing wrong with this, by the way, I totally understand, but personal questions and chats. I do it occasionally. I do answer, like, occasionally as I'm guided, especially if I hear the answer as I read the question and they're just like, or, they're like, answer it. So then I'll do that. I can't always do it for, as far as, like, answering every single comment on a live for everyone. It really turns into not crazy time in like, people are crazy time in the comments, but it can really turn into something that's not always the right vibe for the live if I start answering too many, and, like, I get too many questions, then it just turns into the avalanche of personal questions. So I'm gonna switch gears here. We're gonna do that just to let you know I don't always do that for every single comment in the live. I'm not trying to ignore you or anything like that. But I'm gonna grab my guitar. It's right across the room here, so give me 1 second. Thanks, Prince Priestess. Okay, so the other thing that is going to happen here is I need to take a quick intermission. I'll keep the live on, but I have to use the restroom. It's been like 3+ hours, so I know sometimes people gotta check out when I go to the restroom. That's fine. If you're someone who's like, I'm not waiting around for this bathroom bro to pee it out or whatever, I hope you have a great week. And I'll be back in like 2 minutes for anyone who sticks around with my guitar. And we'll be doing Reiki and energy healing infused guitar. Refill your water. I still have some left. I have half a mug left. But I'll do it anyways. Thank you. I'll be right back. So, 1 second here. Okay. Hello again. So, hi. Everything came out perfectly, Moon. Thank you. Really appreciate it. So, I might take 1 second to check the tuning. I've kind of been riding on this tuning for a couple weeks. Yeah, it's a little rough. So, can I talk and tune at the same time? Nope. 1 second. Sorry, guys. It's not. I think next time I'm just gonna tune my guitar before every live, no matter what, because I don't always expect to do these, and then oh, the string's a little. That's better. Boop boop. Having a rough time with that string. That's okay. That's better. That's a bit better. So, I really wish Nickelback memes weren't invading my brain. Play Lips of an Angel by Hinder. Oh my gosh. You know, I was in a band one time and I think we almost covered that song. But that's actually hilarious that you are suggesting that one. I'll learn that. I don't know if it fits the vibe of the Reiki infused guitar, but I'll learn that. Oh my gosh, that's funny. Okay, so I'm going to set intentions for the energy healing, of course. So usually I work with Reiki and some other energy healing modalities I've received. If you want to hear the name, Valiumi. And sometimes I work with another modality I received. Overall, it's called the Source Fires, but I usually will work with the Four Angelic Fires, which are some of the first things I received from that modality, just as a disclosure thing, I guess. So give me 1 second to just kind of visualize and draw some energy healing symbols and do all that. And they want me to just physically draw it, so that's fine. So, 1 second. So we're good to go. So I'm just going to set the intention that's, of course, only what's pure, what's highest and best aligned, what's fully for the highest good to occur regarding all this occurs. It's fully for your and the highest good. Only energies that are for the highest good to flow to you regarding this session flow to you. And it's a bit of a combination of sound healing and energy healing, of course. So Reiki and some Valiumi energies, and if it's for the highest good, some of the Four Angelic Fires energies will be flowing and infusing themselves with the music, also flowing just directly through me out my hands, along with what I'm doing. So, and it'll just work however it needs to. So your job is just to kind of sit back and relax. You can set an intention just to receive what is for the highest good for you to receive. you can set the intention to get out of this, what's good for you to get out of this. And I'm just going to have the Reiki flowing and I'll be playing, and that's kind of how this is going to go down. So we're going to start. So fully for that is good. I'm also going to ask the angels to watch over this for the highest good and just ensure only what's for the highest good occurs, and keep it all at the best vibrations for this and you, whoever's watching. So let's begin here, however they'd like me to begin. Okay. So I'm just going to set some closing intentions. So any healing energies that flowed, may they continue to work for however long would be for the highest good until any shifts and changes that are for the highest good to be completed are completed. May only what's for the highest good come about from this session, now and posthumously. May the highest and best occur. I'm just going to ask the angels to watch over all the healing that occurred and anything that happened with you, with all that, just to ensure the highest and best outcomes as well. Not that that's necessary, but might as well. And I'll just ask the angels to safeguard all the work should it be in the highest good, and just do whatever else would be for the highest good regarding all of that. And do whatever else would be for the highest good, and any other work that would be for the highest good. So, I hope that was great for you. Oh, thank you, Abigail. Oh, thank you, Sean. Good to see you, by the way. You're welcome, Carrie. I'm glad it helped. You're welcome, Abundance, Love, Joy. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you, Prince Priestess. You're so welcome. So I truly hope that helped. We are probably about to wrap this one up. I'm glad to hear it, Dimension Drifter. You're welcome, Lady Starlight. Oh, thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. You're welcome, Authentic Mystic. Thank you, Moon. Yeah. So any of you, if you ever feel called to go deeper with my work, you can always just check out my website, see what I have going on. There's a pretty good amount there you can check out. I do have a lot of classes I'm teaching coming up for energy healing. I think I have an intro to channeling coming up in January as well, whether it's Reiki or Source Fires for Angelic Fires. And I, of course, I have other offerings as well, like channeled MP3s and things. So no pressure on that. Just if you feel called to it, feel free to check that out and see what resonates for you if you feel called to any of it. But other than that, I think that's all. for anyone who's new here, I do have a free newsletter you can check out with channel messages on the week and month ahead and some other perks, so like discounts and stuff. So that's up to you if you feel called to that. And I trust that the right people will find that whenever I talk about it. If I was supposed to say that, but oh well, I already said it. But that's it. I am wishing you well. I truly hope that, oh my gosh, I'm starting to zone out with all the healing energy from that and just all the channeling. But you guys have a good night or whatever time of day it is for you. Have a beautiful week ahead. I intend to be here next week, of course, so I will hopefully see you then. Oh, you're welcome, Sean. Yeah, you're right. That's about 4 hours. Didn't realize we went that long, but hey, if that's what was for the highest good, then that's it. All right, guys. You guys, anything else you need to say before we close this out? Nope, I think we're good. So sending love, asking the angels to send you anything else that would be for the highest good for them to send you and help you guys out, should it be in the highest good, wherever it'd be for the highest good. And I will see you in the future. Okay, guys. I feel like it's not time to close it out, so I don't know if there's someone who's going to comment or something, but yeah, how does it get any better than this? Love that. You're welcome, India. Good night, Cosmic Cat Art. All right, I think it's time, guys. I'll see you in the future, okay?